Chapter 126. Feeling this ferocious momentum, everyone's expressions changed, and they retreated involuntarily. But at this moment, Chen Hui's order sounded. Defender team, start the first form of defense. Chen Hui's voice was cold, decisive, and convincing. When everyone heard it, they couldn't help but wake up from the shock and deterrence of Juggernaut. It seemed that at this moment, they became so courageous that they could be alone. Shake a mountain. This is actually Chen Hui Invisible's use of his own chakra energy through spiritual thoughts, turning it into a wave of brainwave energy, making everyone's brainwaves stronger at this moment. In this way, everyone naturally stabilized their minds. Looking at Juggernaut, a fighting spirit surged from the bottom of their hearts, and they were no longer surprised. And the remaining 6 defenders of 380 let out a low growl, their skins showed grains like granite, which was taupe and looked extremely hard. Following Chen Hui's order, they immediately launched the number 1 the one-form defense. 6 people stand in a vertical row, the head of the person stands in the front, and the people behind them stand up one after the other. It is specially used to defend against the impact force, which is just right for the current situation. Humph! Just these few little shrimps want to stop me, Juggernaut? Stop daydreaming! Juggernaut sneered. The power under his feet couldn't help but use a little more force, and the ground cracked a little, followed by the whole person, like a humanoid tank, colliding with the first defender suddenly. Boom! The earth shook violently. There was even a howling sound in the air, and a strong gust of wind blew like a knife cutting. It can be seen how fierce and terrifying the energy generated by this collision is. Nightcrawler sucked in a breath of cool air from behind. This kind of power is no worse than the legendary Green Titan, right? Drink! The first defender was hit like this, and his whole body suddenly backed up. The skin on his body, which seemed extremely hard, actually showed signs of cracks at this moment. At the same time, several defenders behind also let out low growls. Even if they were resisted by the first person, they still made their bodies retreat violently, and the veins in their legs exploded with so much force, a deep gully was drawn on the ground. But fortunately, the impact was blocked. Humph! You have some skills. Juggernaut didn't expect his own impact to be resisted abruptly, and his eyes flashed brightly, showing a hint of interest. In this case, I will add 10% of my strength, use 20% of your strength. See if you can still block it. As soon as the words fell, the muscles all over his body suddenly swelled. Boom! Bump again! At this moment, the first defender's eyes widened suddenly, his pupils contracted violently, and the skin on his body was completely cracked, his 7 orifices were bleeding, his whole body was about to burst, and the person behind him, everyone tried their best to feed, but they also spit out a mouthful of blood. It seemed that they were about to be knocked out by the impact. At this time, launch the second form of defense. Chen Hui continued to shout. In addition, half of the brute force will attack. The other half will continue to move forward with the rest of the speedsters. As he spoke, Chen Hui looked at Gwen. Leave everything to Commander Wen to direct. Seeing the look in Chen Hui's eyes, Gwen nodded slightly. She knew that Chen Hui was going to deal with this juggernaut with perverted power alone, but in order to prevent Qin, Storm, and Nightcrawler from knowing his power, the 3 of them were temporarily separated. Aside. So he took a step forward, and a cold voice sounded, listen to the order, and move on with me. Wait a moment. At this moment, Qin suddenly said, Wen, is Dr. Chen Hui okay here alone? Don't worry, Jean, don't underestimate him. Gwen smiled slightly, and immediately left with the rest of the people. Qin had no choice but to leave. After all, from the current point of view, Chen Hui is indeed fine, and it is more important to save Professor X right now. Call. Soon Gwen left quickly with people. As for Chen Hui, under his order, the 6 defenders all had transparent tentacles spreading out from their necks, wrapping their entire bodies, turning them into a spell-marked battlesuit. This defender's exclusive curse seal battlesuit is specially made by Chen Hui. It contains some materials from his vibranium bones, forming a special fiber cortex that covers the defender's epidermis, which can harden their skin to a certain degree. Higher. In addition, the miniature arc reactor in Mantra 2 can greatly enhance cell activity and enhance the defender's self-healing ability. The cracked skin of the first defender recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, a layer of grey fibrous leather battlesuit covered the whole body, tightly combined with the skin. His eyes were shining brightly, and he looked at Juggernaut. There was a sneer at the corner of his mouth, is that all you have? Okay. Hearing this, Juggernaut became angry immediately. You are courting death. Immediately, a more terrifying force surged from his body. But at this moment, 3 brute force men had already surrounded them. Although they were smaller than Juggernaut, the combined strength of the 3 brute force men should not be underestimated. Drink! With a loud bang, 3 fists slammed down on Juggernaut. The force was extremely ferocious, and in the instant 3.6 of the slam, from their fists, on the brute force man's exclusive curse seal battle suit, 3 fists the steel thorn protruded clang and hit Juggernaut's body. Pang! Caught off guard, Juggernaut was immediately blown away by these 3 forces. There was no armor covering his body, and there was a bloodstain. Even on the crimson armor, there were several marks. This scene made his eyes freeze. Looking at the 3 brute force men, a look of surprise appeared on their faces. It can actually scratch my skin and scratch my armor. What kind of weapon is this? This is the weapon to kill you. Chen Hui's voice sounded faintly, and he walked over, looking at Juggernaut. A strange light flickered freely. Chapter 127. Chen Hui knows that Juggernaut is a well-known supervillain in the Marvel multi-universe world, and it belongs to the extremely strong one, whose power is comparable to that of the Green Titan. When the strength reaches the limit, it can even blow up the dimension with one punch. What is dimension? To put it simply, it is a channel connecting 2 cosmic spaces. When it is blown up, the pressure it must bear is no less than a fixed star explosion. Juggernaut can even use his powerful physical strength to smash space and time directly, traveling from one dimension to another dimension. It can be said that in the early Marvel multi-universe, Juggernaut was a bug-like existence. Only when the Green Titan incarnates in the strongest state of Liu Shang can he be completely defeated, and it is only a small defeat. Definitely. Different versions of Juggernaut have different strengths. For example, Juggernaut in the movie X-Men 3 is a weak chicken. Originally, when Juggernaut appeared, Chen Hui didn't take it too seriously. Even if the Juggernaut in the Marvel world he is in is stronger than that in movies and animations, it should not be much stronger. But right now, it seems that it is only 20% strength, which makes his defender team use all their strength to resist. Even the full blow of the 3 of his brute force men only slightly scratched some scars on Juggernaut's body. And the current Juggernaut is only in a normal state. 20% of the power in the normal state is so amazing. If it is in a super limit state, how terrifying is it? This made Chen Hui realize that the current Juggernaut is probably the same Juggernaut with the same bug in the Marvel world. Juggernaut is not a mutant. His power all comes from an extra-dimensional universe Mephisto, the master of the Crimson Universe. Cedarak. And Cedarak may be the Marvel Universe god who challenged the Planet Devourer in its heyday super character. Chen Hui felt a little serious in his heart. He knows that the entire Marvel world multi-universe is filled with countless different single universes, parallel universes, extra-dimensional universes, and so on. Let's take a simple example. The entire Marvel multi-universe is like a country. And those countless single universes, parallel universes, extra-dimensional universes, etc., belong to the provinces of this country. The universe he lives in is a province-like single universe. Cedarak Mephisto is not in the single universe he is in, but belongs to another extra-dimensional universe. The ruler of the Deep Red Universe. His power is powerful enough to penetrate countless single universes. His a deep ruby will be produced on the body, and anyone who touches it can gain his power. Juggernaut was one of the apostles who gained his powers. Definitely, just as Phoenix has access to a fraction of Phoenix's force, Juggernaut can only access a fraction of Cedarak's power. But just this is enough to fight against the strongest Liu Shang Hulk. It can be seen from it that the power of Cedarak Mephisto originally is so powerful that Chen Hui can't even imagine it right now. But that kind of unimaginable power made Chen Hui excited. The strongest desire in his heart is to go to the depths of the universe, to face with those powerful cosmic gods. Oh no, it's a battle. He wants to see the true face of those cosmic gods, the extra-dimensional universe. What kind of existence is it, and how strong is their strength? One day, he will be able to fight and communicate with the 5 great creator gods of the universe, cross many single universes at will, even break through the limit of the multi-universe, go to the infinite and omnipotent universe above the limit of dimensions, and walk in front of the court of life at will. That will be great. What kind of pleasure? Since he lives in this Marvel universe with infinite possibilities, how can he be content not to touch the sky of this amazing world? And the power of Sidarak on Juggernaut right now is the first step for him to touch the sky and feel the power of those great god-level figures outside the universe. Roar! At this moment, Juggernaut had already erupted with a stronger force, and no matter whether it was a defender or a brute force, he was no longer his opponent and was directly thrown away. Immediately Juggernaut looked at Chen Hui, with a sinister smile on the corner of his mouth. Hee, little baby, now you have no one to protect you, what should you do? Need a nose? Ha 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 ha. Juggernaut laughed wildly. In his opinion, Chen Hui is really too weak, with a light pinch, he can be crushed into a meat sauce, wantonly beating. Chen Hui's eyes were calm. He looked at Juggernaut, a smile slowly appeared in his eyes, and with the reveal of this smile, all the sharpness of his body was revealed. The Liu Zhuang battlesuit covered the whole body, turning into a black windbreaker, covering half of the face, only revealing a pair of star-like eyes. At the same time, he pressed his left shoulder with his right hand, and he pulled out a sword that was crystal clear and glistening with blue light, like a crystal gem. Okay. Sensing the revelation of Chen Hui's aura, especially seeing the change in Chen Hui's appearance, Juggernaut frowned. But soon, he sneered. TCH, something like Joker, you think you can compare to my Juggernaut if you put on a uniform? Die. Before the words fell, Juggernaut charged towards Chen Hui. The powerful force directly tore through the air and let out a roar. At the same time, an invisible energy seemed to spread out from the surface of the body, and the powerful coercion enveloped Chen Hui instantly. Chen Hui felt a little 390 suffocation in his heart. But Chen Hui's eyes completely lit up at this moment. This feeling of oppression of power, so cool. Let's see whether it is your Sidarak's power or my Chen Hui's fighting spirit. Chen Hui stomped on the sole of his foot. Immediately, the entire ground burst open, and the power that erupted in an instant was actually stronger than Juggernaut, and the mutated bone sword in his hand flashed a strong edge at this moment. The moment Chen Hui's figure moved, he took Chen Hui with him and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The next moment, she appeared directly in front of Hong Kunshu. One sword, cut down. Mrs. P.S. In order to write the following plot well, I spent a long time checking the information to ensure the accuracy of some settings. Marvel is too complicated, many things are easy to confuse and forget, it hurts, just this one I just wrote it all morning tired alright, let's get down to business, the plot will soon reach its climax, I will set a big event to happen, and many foreshadowings will explode. So I want to ignite myself. Brothers and sisters, come and hit me with a 10-point evaluation ticket monthly ticket. Let me burn. Let me explode. I want crazy code up. Chapter 128. Clang. Mutation. The penetrating power of the vibranium bone sword is not too much stronger than before. Coupled with Chen Hui's turbulent power at the moment, the almost boiling chakra blessing, and even the powerful spiritual power. It directly caused the flow of radioactive energy particles to run wildly on the blade of the mutated bone sword, turning into an extremely powerful and sharp sword light. Slashing on Juggernaut's armor, there was a sharp and piercing friction in an instant, and violent sparks flew out, causing Juggernaut to fly upside down at this moment, and then sat on the ground with a bewildered expression. He stared blankly at a shocking sword mark on his armor. The powerful sword light penetrated, even causing the skin under his armor to rupture, seeping blood, and an unbelievable light shone in his eyes. Then he looked at Chen Hui suddenly, his eyes narrowed. You actually hurt me. Very good, very good. I didn't expect such a huge power to be contained in such a thin body of yours. I underestimated you before. Saying that, Juggernaut stood up, and there seemed to be a faint crimson power surging in his body, making all the injuries on his body heal instantly. Okay. Chen Hui's eyes were fixed, but he never thought that his fierce sword would only hurt Juggernaut. And this mere injury was repaired in the blink of an eye. Sidarak Mephisto's magical power is indeed terrifying. But the more this happened, the more his fighting spirit boiled up. Just when Juggernaut was talking nonsense, he moved his body and attacked again. Chen Hui's attacks are characterized by continuous and endless attacks. Once he gains the advantage in attacking, the next attack will be extremely brutal and endless combos. One word. Fight more and more fiercely. Fight more and more fiercely. And his fighting skills are superb. Even if the enemy wants to resist, even if they have the same infinite energy and strength, in Chen Hui's superb fighting combo, they also have no power to fight back, and can only be beaten by the constant combo. Boom. Seeing Chen Hui's departure, Juggernaut showed a sinister grin. He vowed that this time, he would make this skinny guy a meat sauce. But before he could completely stand still, Chen Hui appeared in front of him in an instant. Seeing this, Juggernaut subconsciously raised his hand to grab it. Swish! But in the blink of an eye, Chen Hui's figure fell short, as if he disappeared from his eyes in an instant. Juggernaut was taken aback for a moment, and the next moment, Chen Hui's eyes flashed sharply. He kicked the doctor hard. The power of this kick, to say the least, is nearly 1,000 tons. Juggernaut's eyes opened wide, and he gasped convulsively. May I ask, what does it feel like to be kicked by nearly 1,000 tons of force? Anyway, Juggernaut's eyes are blank at the moment. No matter how strong his defensive power is, that place is not made of fine steel, and even if it is made of fine steel, and it is covered by armor, it would be a panic to be kicked by nearly 1,000 tons of force. Seeing that Juggernaut was kicked in a daze, Chen Hui smiled. I have tasted the power of the 1,000-ton top, next, try my endless combo. Wow! Chen Hui jumped up and kicked Juggernaut's helmet. Boom! He kicked him sideways and flew out, but the next moment, Chen Hui was already waiting in that direction, punching him with a force of 3,000 tons, and blasting him straight away. Boom! Juggernaut's whole body was shaken violently, and he was completely awake by these two blows. In the next moment, he roared and was about to resist, but at this moment, a long spine shone with a pale golden light, and it was entwined around it suddenly, following closely. When Chen Hui appeared in front of him again, he punched him with a force of 3,000 tons, hitting his forehead. Being hit on the forehead with such a ferocious punch, even with a helmet on, Juggernaut was shocked, and his whole body was bombarded towards the ground like a cannonball. But the next moment, Chen Hui was already below him, ready to wait. The bones around the mutated vibranium bone sword condensed in a spiral shape, making the bone sword turn into a spiral spear in the blink of an eye, the tip flickering coldly. The light pointed at Juggernaut's falling body. No! The Juggernaut catalog is about to split. He never thought that he would be beaten so ruthlessly and fiercely after falling into the wind once, and his head was not fooled until now. But when he saw the cold spiral spear tip in Chen Hui's hand, he became sober no matter how ignorant he was. His eyes suddenly revealed a look of madness, and at the same time, a crimson force appeared all over his body, like a flame burning blazingly. Chen Hui was taken aback when he saw this. After his mental power was tempered by the brainwave machine, his perception power was greatly improved, and he could faintly see that behind Juggernaut's body at this moment, the flame-like crimson power seemed to have turned into a ferocious phantom, and in this phantom in front of him, there seemed to be a crimson gem rising slowly, from which a burst of energy bloomed and merged into Juggernaut's body. The next moment, Juggernaut let out a terrifying roar, and a violent force surged from all over his body, and with unparalleled power bombed down towards Chen Hui. Boy, you PD off my Juggernaut, 100% violent force, I want you to die. At this moment, Juggernaut went completely berserk. Chen Hui gasped. Shock. It wasn't because of Juggernaut's violent power that he was shocked, but just now, he seemed to have vaguely perceived the figure of Cedarak Mephisto, and his crimson gemstone. This is the first time he's seen Mephisto in an extra-lease dimension. He wanted to infiltrate his spiritual power and see clearly the true face of Cedarak Mephisto, but his mental power was swallowed up in the blink of an eye. If it weren't for his rapid contraction, his consciousness would probably fall into go-in. This shocked him. But soon, a fighting spirit came from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my bones, and from the depths of my consciousness, boiling up. The more powerful people you meet, the more Chen Hui's fighting spirit will soar to a new level. There is no doubt that the strength of Mephisto Cedarak has stimulated the fighting spirit in his heart to a new level. The fighting spirit is stronger and more violent than ever before. 20% berserk power? Hehe, let me ask you, what is berserk? Chen Hui raised his head and looked at Juggernaut with a smile on his lips. Immediately, with him as the center, within a kilometer range, the ground exploded. Chapter 129. Boom. Visible to the naked eye, it was almost a distortion, turned into substance, and the violent power like fire spread out from Chen Hui's whole body at this moment. The surrounding kilometer range, as if being hit by a mountain, shattered. Immediately, Chen Hui jumped up, and the spiral bone spear in his hand seemed to be burning with golden flames, and slammed towards the Juggernaut who was pressing down on his head. At this moment, his strength has completely surpassed 3,000 tons. headed towards 5,000 tons, and soon broke through, reaching 8,000 tons, 9,000 tons, until 9,999 tons, infinitely close to 10,000 tons the extent. It finally collided with Sidorak Beelzebub's power on Juggernaut. A collision of nearly 10,000 tons of force, what's the concept? Time seemed to stop at this moment. But the space trembled at this moment, as if there were signs of collapse. Not to mention the surrounding dam bases, as if a magnitude 12 earthquake erupted, no matter the ground, walls, stainless steel protective walls, etc., all trembled and cracked at this moment, as if they were about to disintegrate in an instant. As if it was about to explode instantly, almost everyone's faces changed drastically at this moment. Even some people have seen that on the rock wall inside the dam base, on the ceiling, there has been water dripping down. The whole dam is about to collapse, burst. This. Deep in the base, Loki was walking towards a mysterious room. When he felt the change, he suddenly turned his head, looked at the place where Chen Hui and Juggernaut collided, and frowned. This is Sidorak Beelzebub's power. It exploded. What happened? Who could provoke Juggernaut to explode with such a powerful force? But that's fine. My plan is to collapse the entire dam and wipe out all those bugs that get in the way. This will save me a lot of time. Loki sneers. Immediately, he quickened his pace and headed towards the mysterious room in front of him. Clang! The iron gate was opened. Loki walked in, and the whole mysterious room was not big, only about 70 square meters, and it was a little dark inside, and in the dimness, a candle was flickering, reflecting a figure with his back facing Loki. Although this person turned his back to Loki, he could see that his head was covered with a metal helmet, and he was wearing coarse linen clothes similar to Chinese ancient costumes, making him extremely mysterious. Don't worry, this dam won't collapse yet. Just when Loki was about to speak, the figure suddenly spoke, with a hint of vicissitudes in his voice. Won't it collapse? Loki raised his eyebrows. I'm sorry, my ultimate goal is to collapse the entire dam, and now it's just a little earlier, so. If you want to survive, come with me now. I'll take you. Rescue from that damn prison was not for nothing, now is the time for you to pay me back. Ugh. The voice sighed and did not speak again. Loki sneered, used the illusion, and then dropped the potion that controlled the mutant on the back of the man's neck. The man trembled suddenly, and then slowly turned around, revealing a metal helmet face like a skull, with two hands where the purpose lies. Blue light surges, and his entire body is actually suspended in mid-air. Let's go. Loki snorted, then turned and left. The mysterious metal helmet figure didn't speak, his feet landed on the ground, followed behind Loki, and followed him towards the depths of the base. And as he left the room, the water around him that had been seeping and falling from the walls and ceiling seemed to be suspended at this moment, and gradually stopped dripping down, and the entire trembling dam gradually regained some calmness. Although it was still vibrating, it no longer looked like it was about to explode. It looks like it should be able to resist for another 15 minutes. Asking for flowers. The people in the entire dam base breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately moved faster. Boom! 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 At the same time. The chakra power on the spiral bone spear in Chen Hui's hand violently surged, covering Juggernaut's whole body. This scene made Juggernaut's pupils shrink, especially when he felt the terrifying power in Chen Hui's hand. His whole heart trembled. It was really hard for him to understand, how could such a thin body burst out with such a powerful force? Even at this moment, Li has completely surpassed him. It was almost impossible to resist, causing the armor on his body to shatter, and then blasted through several floors of the ceiling like a shell. Plop! It fell into the big lake behind the dam and sank into it without a sound. Call! Chen Hui let out a long sigh, looking at the scene that was almost in ruins all around, especially feeling the tremor of the entire dam. He frowned. It seems that the next action will be faster. Whoosh! As soon as the figure moved, it flew towards the depths of the dam base. At the moment, Hammer and Iceman's team entering the left fork, Gwen's and Sheen's teams directly ahead, and Wolverine's and Colossus teams entering the right fork have already entered the deepest part of the dam base. Seeing that the location of Professor X is getting closer and closer. But at this moment, several powerful opponents appeared in front of the three teams, blocking them. Chapter 130. Whoosh whoosh. The figures of the speedsters such as Hammer were very fast, almost the fastest to reach the deepest part of the base. According to Chen Hui's instructions, the key to the speedster team's action lies in every single word. Quick! Don't love to fight, reach the depths of the base as quickly as possible, find out the situation ahead, let the latecomers know what enemies are ahead, and then make full preparations. Later Icemen ETAL are also very fast. On a piece of ice created by Icemen, several defenders, brute force men and firemen slid forward quickly, always 100 meters behind the speed team in front, waiting for the front warning and preparing for battle. After cooperating, they have killed many of Loki's men, including some mutants with impressive abilities. Suddenly. Warning, warning, there is an enemy attack ahead, the speed is faster than the speed fighters, we are retreating, and the rear is ready for a tough battle. Hammer's voice came from the communicator next to everyone's ears. The voice is urgent. It appears to have been attacked by surprise. Stop! Iceman 640 heard this, raised his hand, everyone stopped immediately, and the frost under their feet melted. Hammer, turn on the live video. Shua! As soon as the voice fell, the blue lights on the communicators next to the ears of several people lit up, and the miniature projection images appeared in front of everyone. The picture shows several speedsters led by Hammer. The angle of view belongs to Hammer. They are running back quickly, and at the same time, the Tesseract energy weapon in their hands is constantly shooting backwards. But at the back, there is no one. Iceman frowned. Hammer, why is there no one? Bobby, you have to be careful when you wait for a while, the other party will be invisible, and there is a mutant with a super high speed, 5 or 6 times faster than ours, and you can't see the figure at all. The last one is a sharp hidden weapon similar to thousands of bones. Good. Understood. Iceman nodded, probably understood the situation in front of him, turned his head, and looked at the 5 defenders behind him. Defenders, fighters, the opponent's attack power should not be too high, at most, be careful of the mutant that shoots sharp bone hidden weapons. Resist in front of us, block the hidden weapon, and leave the other 2 to us. Yes. The 5 defenders let out a low growl, and immediately stood up side by side, like an iron wall. The defender's speed is not fast, and the action is slow. Facing the invisible and super high-speed moving mutant, they can only be hit by hanging, so the biggest use is to block the hidden weapon at the selected location. Whoosh whoosh. Soon Hammer waited for the speedster to come back. The original 7 people, together with Hammer, only had 4 left. That is to say, in just a few words, 3 of the speedsters had been killed, which showed the fierceness of the opponent's offensive. Definitely, this is also because the speedster is restrained by the super high-speed ability mutant, plus the opponent can become invisible and throw hidden weapons, so naturally he can only be beaten. Call. Just when Hammer appeared, Iceman narrowed his eyes slightly. Chen Hui's Curse Seal 2 gave him an extremely fast neural reaction speed, and he immediately noticed a fast-moving figure behind Hammer and the others. Holding a sharp knife, with the sound of PSST, accompanied by blood splattering, it stabbed into the back of a speedster. Ugh! The extremely fast man let out a shriek and screamed, and then fell down, CCBF, to death. And at this moment, it can be seen that the ultra-high-speed person is a long-haired black girl with a strange totem on her right face. At this moment, her eyes are flickering and cold, looking towards Iceman blink away. In the next instant, Iceman felt a sharp edge coming directly at him. Without the slightest hesitation, as soon as he stretched out his hand, a strong icy breath filled the surroundings, and ice formed in the air, and such icy air, no matter how violent the molecular movement is, can instantly drop to freezing point, including human beings. Speed. Seeing the figure of the black girl in front of him appear, his speed was greatly reduced at this moment, and he even shivered because of the cold. She didn't have any hesitation, she couldn't succeed with one blow, and immediately retreated. But at this moment, Chi-Chi an ice wall condensed from behind her, blocking her figure. This lady in a weird costume, I'm sorry to tell you that your ability, at present, should be restrained by me, so, let's capture it. Iceman's mouth curled into a smile. Humph. You are the lady, my name is Callisto. Definitely, you can also call me by my nickname, Nightwalker. Nightwalker sneered, also, although you have the ability to control ice, but apparently the ability hasn't been fully discovered yet, I can feel the sleeping power in your body that hasn't been awakened yet. Can you perceive me? Definitely. The Nightwalker chuckled lightly, her eyes flickering brightly. Iceman suddenly showed curiosity, and when he was about to ask again, his face suddenly changed. Wow! A ball of flames blasted towards it. And at this moment, a transparent shadow appeared behind Iceman, and a woman with purple hair screamed and stepped back. Seeing this, Iceman's face froze, he almost forgot that there was another invisible mutant hidden all the time. Hey! Bobby, don't lose your mind as soon as you talk to a woman. I really don't understand how the boss asked you to lead this team. The figure of the fireman stepped out from the side, looked at the purple-haired invisible girl and the night girl, and a ball of flame rose from the palm of his hand. Okay, who should I burn? Next. Chapter 131. Whoosh. As soon as Burning Man's words fell, suddenly a pointed pillar similar to a bone pierced through the air in this time and space, and shot towards Burning Man with a whistling sound. On the defender's side, a big man wearing a black hood, a black vest, and tattoos on his arms threw himself at a defender. It popped out, appeared in the hand, and slammed into the eye socket of the thrown defender. Laugh. Blood splattered. The defender let out a miserable scream, and when his head was pierced by the bone spur, his scream stopped and he died completely. Swish. The big man moved extremely fast. When other defenders rushed forward, he quickly left again. Bone spurs appeared on his arm again and appeared in his hand. He looked towards Hammer, Burning Man, and Iceman with a sneer in his eyes. Especially when looking at Burning Man, a bloodthirsty murderous intent appeared on his face without restraint. Hee, this flaming boy, wait carefully for a while, play with fire and set yourself on fire. There was murderous intent in the smirk. This big man was obviously a very experienced and fierce killer, but Huo Ren's temper was also very irritable. Once he felt that the other party was clearly targeting him, he raised his eyebrows, his face darkened, and looked at the big man. The same sneer sounded with killing intent. Humph, then I also want to remind you, be careful not to let me burn it into a skill sentence. As he said that, the flame in his hand burst out suddenly, turned into a fireball, and threw it towards the big man. Seeing Pyro make a move, Iceman didn't show the slightest hesitation. Immediately, a gust of icy air surged up from his hand, and blasted towards Nightcrawler. Seeing this, the invisible woman's body instantly became transparent. But at this moment, she suddenly let out a shrill scream, and saw a blue electric current sweeping her whole body, causing her to tremble and faint instantly. Behind her, Hanmer held a weapon specially made with Tesseract energy, breathed a sigh of relief, and smiled coldly. I have been waiting for this moment for a long time. Invisible BCH who likes to sneak attack. Not good. Nightwalker's complexion changed, seeing that one of her team members was missing in an instant, their sneak attack failed, and the opponent had a large number of people. She was about to use super high speed to escape without any hesitation. But at this moment, Iceman snorted coldly. Wow! Ice breath came out all over his body suddenly, his body, skin, bones, etc. all turned into crystal ice cubes, and with a wave of his hand, a white cold current swept towards the night girl, instantly turned it into a sailor. Humph! As I said, your ultra-high movement speed is useless at all under the freezing of my molecules. Iceman sneered, brute force, do it. Several brute force men came to the night girl in an instant, raised their fists, and slammed towards the frozen night girl. No. The night walker showed despair, and even more madness, repeatedly breaking through the water. But it's useless to be crazy, she killed almost all the speedsters before, and now it's time to pay the price, as the fist of the brute force smashed on the ice. Click! In an instant, Nightwalker's whole body was broken into several pieces, and she died. Seeing this, Iceman's eyes were indifferent, without the slightest emotion. Chen Hui's spell chip can erase any sympathetic hesitation in him during the battle, and also greatly enhance his understanding of his ability, so as to ensure that Iceman will not because he was killed by the enemy due to his lack of combat experience. Iceman did not have the indecision of a Xavier's school student on weekdays. Call. With a movement of the figure, he moved towards the burning man who was fighting fiercely with the big man. At the same time, in the direction of Wolverine, Colossus, and Nightcrawler, etc. Wolverine moved her nose, her eyes were like lightning, she looked around, and there was a smell of blood. Blood smell. Colossus and Nightcrawler, as well as the curse-sealed warriors around them, looked around vigilantly. 3 speed fighters, go to investigate some, if there is any movement, if you encounter a dangerous situation, immediately retreat. Wolverine ordered. Swish swish swish. The 3 speed fighters rushed forward without any hesitation. With their fighting strength, they didn't need any investigation at first. According to Chen Hui, the direction of the right fork in front of them was originally to wreak havoc. Asking for flowers. Do it when you meet someone, do it unreasonably. So the whole journey was extremely bloody, and even Nightcrawler, who hadn't been injected with the second-generation chip of the curse seal and had a somewhat cowardly personality, had a faint chilling aura about him at the moment. But at this moment, it is unusual, and it has reached the deepest part of the base, so there may be some powerful characters appearing. Coupled with the smell of blood in front, it is really unreasonable, so Wolverine decided to investigate first. After all, it takes a long time to be careful. But not for long. What? Suddenly, several screams came, followed by everyone who saw. In front, there seemed to be blood splashing, and a torn thigh flew over faintly, and the air was instantly filled with thick to the extreme. It even has a bloody smell that makes people sick. At the same time, an earth-shattering roar came from the depths, as if the beast was roaring. Okay. The expressions of Wolverine and the others changed suddenly. Quickly contact the speed squad ahead. But there was no response at all. This also means that the entire army of the speedster team in front was wiped out. And it was wiped out in an instant. How is this possible? Wolverine's heart was shocked. The speedster team is good at scouting and escaping, but the entire army was wiped out in just an instant. What kind of terrifying existence is it that can do this? Boom! Boom! Kong lang bang lang. Just when the thick blood breath filled the air and Wolverine and the others shook their minds, the ground shook, and at the same time there was a sound similar to the pulling of a chain. From the heavy voice, it can be heard that this chain must be extremely heavy. Vigilance! Be ready to fight and kill at any time. Wolverine whispered, keeping her eyes fixed on the front. I saw there, in the darkness, a figure, a huge grey-green figure with rocky folds in its skin, slowly walked out. Chapter 132. Call. As soon as they stepped out, a strong gust of scarlet wind blew towards Wolverine and the others. The strong bloody smell was simply disgusting, but the bloody smell was secondary, and the most shocking thing was the huge figure emitting the astonishing murderous aura came out. This murderous aura was so strong that even Wolverine, who had gone through countless wars, couldn't help trembling from the bottom of her heart. But compared to this murderous aura, what is more frightening is the appearance of this huge figure. It is the first feature, but besides the hugeness, there is another feature that cannot be ignored, that is, horror. The epidermis of the entire body is like rock folds, showing a grey-green color, and from the inside of the epidermis, curved bony spurs spread up and down from the elbows, dripping blood on them, even 313 hang minced meat. In addition to the edges of the elbows of the hands, the knees of the legs, and the insteps of the feet, there are also terrifying sharp bone spurs growing. But that's not even the most shocking thing. What frightened Wolverine and the others the most was that the spine of the monster's body protruded outwards and turned into sinister curved bone spurs that were 1 meter long and thick as an adult's leg. There were also blood dripping on them, and even hanging. Looking at the remains of the internal organs, it is obvious that there was a speedster just now, who was directly torn to pieces by the sinister curved bone spurs on his back. Eventually, the monster appeared before Wolverine entirely. He was holding a thick chain in his hand, shining with a cold light, dripping blood dripping on the ground, coupled with the monster's bright red pupils. The whole scene looked extremely shocking. Giloo! Nightcrawler swallowed. This monster, just looking at its appearance, is already scary enough. If you kill 3 speedsters in seconds, what should you do next? Wolverine, Colossus, and several defenders and brute force fighters, the moment they saw this monster, they had already stood in their attack positions and were ready to fight at any time. But even with Chen Hui's Curse Seal 2-generation chip strengthening their psychological quality, seeing this terrifying monster at this moment, I still feel a liar in my heart. In fact, if Chen Hui was here, he would definitely recognize this monster. It is indeed abomination. But the current hatred is obviously very different from before. I don't know how Loki got here, and I don't know what strange changes happened to at the moment's abomination. It seems that his strength is stronger than before, but the price of his strength should be the loss of a certain amount of sanity, which makes him become cruel and bloodthirsty like an incarnation of beast. Otherwise, it wouldn't have turned into a more terrifying appearance than the original one. Superior. Wolverine quickly calmed down, her eyes were like lightning, and she gave an order quickly. At the same time, clang! Stretching out the steel claws of both hands, he preemptively rushed towards the bloodthirsty abomination. Now that the enemy has already appeared, it will be a bloody battle sooner or later. It might be better to preemptively strike, and perhaps achieve miraculous results. Therefore, even though this bloodthirsty abomination looks extremely terrifying, Wolverine is still brave and fearless, and even faintly, the curse mark in his mind, the second generation, shone with light, and the miniature arc reactor inside was activated, causing Wolverine's veins to burst out, and a violent force erupted like a mountain, destroying her own body. The Defender fighters moved quickly, and took cover 3 meters away from Wolverine at any time. At the same time, the brute force fighters kept their eyes on the weak point of the bloodthirsty abomination in front of them, waiting for the opportunity to attack. Kurt! Take me there! Colossus looked to Nightcrawler. It is good. Nightcrawler nodded. Although his heart was trembling, he was still confident in his ability. He put his hand on Colossus' shoulder, and with the surge of dark blue air around him, the two of them disappeared instantly, and when they reappeared, they were already there. On the head of the bloodthirsty abomination. As for Colossus, his whole body has turned into extremely hard metal steel, and his iron fist the size of a sandbag slammed towards the head of the bloodthirsty abomination. Roar! Seeing Wolverine and the others approaching, the bloodthirsty abomination let out a roar, grabbed it with a big hand, and grabbed it directly towards Colossus. At the same time, he took a fierce step forward, and with a boom, the whole ground shook. Immediately after the rocks collapsed, a shocking gully rolled towards Wolverine and the others. Transfer! A sharp light flashed in Colossus' eyes, and the bloodthirsty abomination grabbed him in front of him. He shouted loudly, and then the Nightcrawler grabbed him, and disappeared in an instant. When it reappeared, it was already in front of the face of the bloodthirsty abomination, and without any hesitation, an iron fist slammed viciously on the face of the bloodthirsty abomination. Boom! The bloodthirsty abomination staggered and almost fell. At this time, Wolverine and others have arrived. Stab! With a leap of his body, the steel claws in his hands stabbed at the bloodthirsty abomination's seemingly fragile stomach. The skin of the abomination is very hard, and the muscle density is 2 or 3 times that of before. Itchy, but Wolverine's real adamantium steel claws are extremely penetrating. Coupled with the blessing of the second generation of Chen Hui's curse seal, Wolverine's 2 steel claws suddenly and completely pierced into the stomach of the bloodthirsty abomination. Follow up. PSST. Swipe to both sides. Roar! The bloodthirsty abomination screamed, and the severe pain made him run wild. He grabbed Wolverine and threw it to the side. 3.4 boom, 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 directly penetrated several layers of walls, and finally fell into the middle of the fork on the road. Chen was buried under a patch of rubble. Hiss! The gravel was pushed away, and Wolverine crawled out of it, and the wounds all over her body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. His eyes were sharp, and he was about to go through and fight the bloodthirsty abomination again. Just then, a voice stopped him. Wolverine. Okay. Wolverine froze for a moment, then turned to look over. Seeing this, he was stunned for a moment, and saw Chen Hui standing not far away from him, followed by several injured brute force men and defenders, as well as Stryker among the defenders. His eyes were full of curiosity at the moment. He looked over at him. Chapter 133. PhD. Wolverine walked over, and the last scar on her forehead was healed. She was thrown through several layers of walls by the bloodthirsty abomination, and ran directly from the side lane on the right to the middle lane, as if nothing happened. Looking at Chen Hui, he asked strangely, "Why are you here?" "I had some trouble earlier, so let the others go first." Chen Hui said casually, watching Wolverine quickly recover from the previous state full of scars. He couldn't help but be amazed. Wolverine's self-healing ability is indeed powerful, and the self-healing factor is very active. He used chakra to perceive the activity of Wolverine's body cells just now, and the answer he got was actually more active than him. It seems that the more seriously Wolverine is injured, the more he can stimulate the self-healing factor in his whole body. Chen Hui thought to himself, definitely, if I was in the prime of my fighting spirit, I would not be weaker than Wolverine, but Wolverine is an ability contained in her innate genes, and I was born with an acquired ability, so it is highly exploitable. If I study Wolverine's genes carefully, what surprises might I get? A thought flashed. Immediately Chen Hui asked Wolverine, "By the way, what happened to you? Someone can throw you here from there." As soon as he mentioned this, Wolverine's eyes gleamed sharply. "It's a huge amounts of grey-green monster, follow me." Wolverine looked violent, and as soon as her figure moved, she quickly moved towards the broken wall. Chen Hui followed closely behind. Grey-green monster. Chen Hui was puzzled. He thought about it carefully, and it seems that there are no gray-green monsters in the Marvel world. Could it be a monster he doesn't know? Or something that has transformed into a new species? Hey? Suddenly Chen Hui remembered. Hate. At that time, he remembered that Abomination should have been captured by S.H.I.E.L.D and General Ross, and then locked in a secret prison for research. Stryker is also a member of the military, so he must know about this. Loki had worked with Stryker before, so naturally he knew the existence of the Abomination. With Loki's character of fearing that the world will not be chaotic, there is no doubt that he will definitely find a way to get out the Abomination, and even if he rises up, he will cast magic on the Abomination to make the Abomination become enhance. Call. Soon the two came to the right fork. At this moment, Colossus and Nightcrawler were both out of breath. Not far away, their eyes were fixed on a roaring monster in front of them. The corpses of defenders and brute force lay scattered all around them, and the blood was all over the ground. The whole scene looks like a bloody hell, very scary. Hiss. Even with Wolverine's psychological quality, seeing this scene took a deep breath. How long has he been away? Right now, it is basically a massacre scene. Fortunately, Nightcrawler is there, otherwise, Colossus might be one of the corpses lying on the ground. Hey! Chen Hui looked at the bloodthirsty Abomination, and frowned. It really is an abomination, but it looks much fiercer than before, and it has become much more bloodthirsty. The original hatred, though fierce, retained all of Briansky's mind. In other words, the mind is still a human being. But the current bloodthirsty Abomination has basically lost most of its sanity. It can be said that it is a killing machine. Wherever it goes, it will be a massacre. Roar! Abominations are running towards Colossus and Nightcrawler. But suddenly stopped. Look at Chen Hui and Wolverine. Immediately, the blood-red eyes burst into furious light like flames, filled with killing intent. Boom! As soon as he stepped on the ground, the whole earth exploded, charging towards Wolverine and Chen Hui like cannonballs. This! Wolverine's pupil shrank, and she was terrified when she saw the bloodthirsty and awe-inspiring look of rage. I pierced this guy's stomach before, but there is no need to be so angry, right? Just then, a hand clapped Wolverine's shoulder. Wolverine, go aside, he's here to look for me. Chen Hui's voice sounded faintly, and he walked up to Wolverine, looking at the bloodthirsty Abomination charging towards him, with a smile on his lips. He knew, the bloodthirsty Abomination recognized him. Although he was wearing a Venom battle suit before, which concealed his appearance, but for the Abomination, to recognize a person, it only needs to rely on the feeling and smell, let alone looking at the current state. It is obvious that the perception has also been greatly improved. Can recognize him not surprising. Hate was brutally beaten by Chen Hui and Green Titan before, so he must be unwilling. Right now, due to the increase in mutation strength, the mentality is greatly reduced, but the unwillingness hidden deep in the heart will not decrease, but will become more intense as time goes on, until it turns into a violent killing intent. But, even so what? The Abomination has turned into a bloodthirsty abomination, and his strength has greatly increased, but his strength, Chen Hui 013, is also advancing day by day. Boom! As the ground exploded, the bloodthirsty Abomination leaped up high, followed by a punch that hit Chen Hui like a mountain top. The powerful force blasted the air, and Wolverine behind Chen Hui, as well as Colossus and Nightcrawler not far away, felt this and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Horrible! Can Chen Hui resist it? Although Wolverine and Colossus became Chen Hui's people by injecting the second-generation chip of Curse Seal, they didn't know Chen Hui's strength, let alone Nightcrawler, who almost teleport there at any time, bringing Chen Hui and Chen Hui together. Preparations for the two of Wolverine to take away. And at this moment, everyone saw that Chen Hui lightly lifted the rein. Squeeze it! Suddenly, a whirlwind spread from this fist, and a shocking power surged out. The moment the fists of the bloodthirsty Abomination fell, they collided with it. Boom! Crack! Accompanied by the monstrous roar, Wolverine's entire body was blown away, and even the Colossus and Nightcrawler not far away were swept away by the strong wind. Chapter 134. Boom! Just when Chen Hui's fists intersected with Abomination, the entire dam base roared again. The whole ground shakes, trembles, and collapses. The turbulent water seeped out of it, causing everyone in the base to change their expressions at this moment. Obviously, with such a violent blow, the time for the dam to completely collapse is not far away. When, I have a perception in the direction. In the depths of the base, Chen's face was dignified, telepathy was used to the limit, and suddenly his eyes opened, and the light gushed out from inside. Where? Gwen looked back. Tell me a more specific location, and I'll send you there directly. Gwen's space transfer ability is much stronger than Nightcrawler. As long as she knows the location of the specific point, she can instantly teleport to the location of Professor X, take the professor away, then find Chen Hui and others, and teleport away from the dam base. The whole process does not take a minute. Definitely, the premise is that a more specific direction is required. Otherwise, even Gwen can't do anything. After all, her mental strength is not strong, and she can easily and instantly transfer to a larger place, such as the entire dam base. But if it is a relatively small room, you need to know the approximate specific direction. Otherwise, if a transfer ran to the inside of the wall, it would completely collapse. Good. I already feel the specific direction. Chen nodded, and was about to tell Gwen the specific location through telepathy, but at this moment, a voice sounded from a distance. Chen, Commander Wen. It was a man's voice. Don't be too familiar with Ji Wenkin and others, because this voice belongs to Chen Hui's voice. Turn around and look over. I saw Chen Hui running from behind, a little embarrassed all over, and his clothes were torn a lot. Dr. Chen Hui. Chen was taken aback. Is that Juggernaut solved? And what about the soldiers around you? The whole army is wiped out. Chen Hui sighed. Then Juggernaut is too strong. I tried my best to throw him away and escape back. By the way, did you find Charles? Already found. Chen just wanted to nod, but at this moment, as the space distorted, Gwen's figure suddenly appeared beside her, waving her hand to signal her not to speak. What's wrong, Gwen? Chen wondered. He's not Dr. Chen Hui. Gwen said coldly. What are you talking about, Commander Wen? Hearing this, Chen Hui's face turned cold. Are you questioning me? Definitely. Gwen smiled coldly. At least the Dr. Chen Hui I know wouldn't talk to me like that. As he spoke, his figure suddenly moved and disappeared in place. When it reappeared, it was already beside Chen Hui. The entire teleportation process took less than 0.001 second, which is too fast. Before Chen Hui could react, he felt a chill in his neck, and a sharp blade was transformed from the third-generation battlesuit in Gwen's hand, which touched his neck. You! Chen Hui immediately lost his temper, and wanted to say something harsh, but he perceived the disdain in Gwen's eyes, his face froze, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Interesting, this is the first time I have been given such a quick response. See through, how did you do it? As he said that, suddenly a blue scale-like substance surged up from his whole body, changing from Chen Hui's appearance to a woman with blue skin all over her body. It is Mystique. At the moment of transformation, with a twist of the waist, a delicate shift, it is necessary to break free from Gwen's control. But where does Gwen let Mystique break free like this? Humph. Mystique, all I can say is that you don't know anything about Dr. Chen Hui. Gwen snorted coldly, and at the moment Mystique was about to break free, her palm came out of the hole like a snake, and at a weird and tricky angle, 5 fingers clasped Mystique's shoulder. Okay. Mystique's face darkened. I didn't expect the opponent's fighting skills to be so high, and he couldn't get rid of it for a while. Just when she was a little anxious. Buzz. Suddenly there was a buzzing in the air. Hearing this, everyone frowned, but Mystique had surprise on his face, and when he looked at Gwen, the corner of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Then I also want to tell you, you are also good to me. I don't know. Wow. At the same time, a dark leg kicked towards Gwen, like a yellow dog urinating. Although the movement was unsightly, it was sinister and powerful, but it made Gwen goosebumps all over in an instant. Rise. Shua. Without the slightest hesitation, her figure flashed, shifted instantly, and came behind Mystique. About to attack again. But suddenly. Gwen, be careful. Chen yelled, and in the distance, the humming sound suddenly resounded violently, and then she saw a steel thorn piercing the air and attacking Gwen, almost in the blink of an eye. It had already got behind Gwen. Gwen's expression changed. This steel spike attack is too fast. Especially at the moment of the attack, the speed suddenly doubled. It was so fast that she had no time to react and teleport away. Drink. Chen gave a low snort, grasped at the void, and her mind acted on the steel thorn, trying to make it stop, but there was also a mind effect on the steel thorn, which was closely integrated with the steel thorn. She only pulled it a little, and it was nothing can be done. Seeing that the steel thorn was about to pierce Gwen's heart. Suddenly wow! Gwen's whole body turned into a liquid shape, and fell down while being twisted, making the steel thorn miss her by a hair's breadth. Following a flash of the figure, Gwen came to Chen and the others, his face pale. Chen looked at Gwen strangely. Gwen, is this your ability? Cough, that's it. Gwen coughed dryly, her pretty face flushed slightly. Hello Wang Niu, what's wrong? It's nothing, it's pretty good. Chen tried to be serious. It's just kind of disgusting. Storm said abruptly from behind. Gwen blushed even more. Chen Hui's third-generation molecular-level battle suit, although very practical, but at most Gwen turned it into an isolated weapon. As for turning it into a liquid form, for a girl, it is always inexplicably ashamed to say. Hehe, it is indeed a very good ability. Girl, who are you? I didn't seem to know that there are people with abilities like you on this earth. Suddenly a voice came over. It was from the direction that the steel thorns came from just now. The faces of Gwen and the others froze, and when they looked over, they saw an old man wearing a helmet and a cloak behind him flying over in the air, with several steel thorns flickering with strange flames floating beside him. Looking at Gwen and the others, a sneer emerged from the corner of his mouth. This old man is none other than Magneto. Chapter 135. Magneto fell down, and when the steel thorns around him spun, they actually merged. Soon all the steel thorns integrated into one, turning into a huge amounts of steel ball, with strange flame textures on it, which looked incredible. Very obviously, this should be the magical blessing cast by Loki. Loki's magical ability can not only control other people's minds and separate their spirits from the body, but also endow others with magical powers and enhance the strength of those under him. Originally, his magical attainments are extremely superb, otherwise he would not be able to bear the name of evil god. As Magneto's figure fell, there were several people behind him. An Asian woman with a ponytail and a pretty face, but there is often evil spirits in her eyes. Her nails are a metallic silver-gray color, which seems to contain something weird, making this woman look at her hands all the time, and sometimes pull her phalanges morbidly, making a crocodile sound. In addition to this Asian woman, there was another short-haired woman dressed like a tomboy, but with thick lip gloss on her lips. She looked at Gwen and the others coldly, with a disdainful smile on her face. Behind the two women, there is a man with a flat head in 253. He looks thin and thin. Judging from his attire, he should also be a mutant, but he doesn't know what kind of ability he has. Be careful, this man is Magneto. When Chen saw Magneto and the three people behind him, his eyes were dignified. Okay. Gwen nodded. She definitely recognized Magneto, and Chen Hui fought Magneto outside the laboratory back then. But the current Magneto is a little different from the original one. This is an intuition in Gwen's heart, but what is the difference? But I can't tell why. Boom. The two parties were confronting each other, but suddenly, the strong roar of the sun resounded. This time, although the roar was not as good as the first time, it was much stronger than the second time. The whole ground trembled, and even cracks spread, and traces of water splashed from the cracks in the ceiling. And during this period, the crack grew bigger and bigger until there was a boom. Wow! Kai! Huge amounts of water rushing down. Everyone's expression changed. Magneto snorted coldly, and the steel ball covered with flame textures stretched out in an instant, turning into a disc with huge amounts of it, covering the rushing water, and making a chi-chi sound as it blended with the water. Thick white water mist evaporated. Immediately said to Mystique and others, "Let's go." There was no hesitation at all. Seeing the flood rushing down, Mystique and the others all hid under Magneto's steel disc and left quickly. "Let's go too." Gwen and the others also left without hesitation. Right now, the entire dam is obviously about to collapse. If they don't leave, everyone will be sucked into the flood. After that, life or death can only be resigned to fate, and their actions this time will inevitably fail. Swish swish swish. According to the direction provided by Chen, Gwen used ability to directly transfer everyone out. Call. Everyone fell to the ground, but before they stood still, there was a bang, and another violent bang sounded, and then the entire ceiling collapsed, and the turbulent water flowed down like a dragon. Wow! There is a room in front of me, there is a very strong brainwave reaction in it, obviously, Professor X is inside, Chen naturally will not let the flood this place, so when she lifts her hand, a wave of psychokinesis surges, and the water is blocked. Go in quickly, I won't be able to hold back this flood for long. Jean turned to Gwen. It is good. Gwen nodded, knowing that this is the most urgent moment, there can be no hesitation at all, and as soon as she raises her hand, everyone will be teleported into the room. But at this moment, there was a boom, the water rushed down, and it was even more turbulent than before. Jean staggered and almost fell to the ground. And at this moment, the turbulent water roared, and it was about to sweep over and swallow Jean. Gwen's complexion changed, and he teleported over without hesitation, wanting to bring Jean back, but even so, it was a drop in the bucket, the current was too violent, and Jean hadn't slowed down yet, the next fate of everyone was just could be submerged by the current. Even teleporting into the room is useless, because the door of the room will be easily broken by such a violent water flow. Crack, click. At this moment, the frenzied flow of water froze at a speed visible to the naked eye. It stopped when it was about to hit Gwen and the others. At the same time, from another direction, the ground turned into frost, and several figures came quickly from there. Bobby! Seeing this, Storm immediately cried out in surprise. The people who came here were none other than Hammer, Iceman, and Burning Man's team. After killing the Night Walkers and the others, they forced to find out the whereabouts of Professor X. They rushed over at full speed, but just happened to see Gwen and others the scene of being submerged by the flood, so he rescued him. But even if the water flow is blocked by ice, it won't last long, and it will soon have a tendency to rupture amidst the tremors. Storm! Iceman said quickly, cooperate with me to freeze all these water flows, Commander Wen, you and the rest of the people go to rescue the professor together. By the way, Bobby, did you see Scott? Suddenly Jean asked. Scott? Scott is Cyclops, who was captured by Loki along with Professor X, but from the beginning to the end, he never saw Cyclops, and Jean couldn't help feeling a little flustered. Didn't see it. Iceman shook his head. Jean, time is running out. After saving Professor X, let's hurry to Chen Hui's side, maybe Scott is on Chen Hui's side too. Gwen said. There is an induction between her and Chen Hui, so she can teleport to Chen Hui's direction instantly. Okay. Jean nodded. Immediately, the figures of the people flashed, disappeared in the blink of an eye, and when they reappeared, they were already in the room with a strong brainwave reaction. Chapter 136. The whole room was very dark. A dim light can be seen faintly flickering, and in that flickering place, a figure can be seen reflected on the wall. Professor? Jean asked tentatively. This figure gave her a strange feeling. It has a strong brainwave response, which is very similar to Professor X, but it gives people a very weird feeling, because apart from the strong brainwave response, the person has a faint breath of life, but like a vegetable, it doesn't move at all. Gwen also saw this scene and couldn't help frowning. Look to Hammer. Hammer understood what Gwen meant, waved his hand, and walked forward with a defender and a brute force man, but before they got within 3 meters, Hammer's face changed, and the two defenders and the brute force in front of him, the brute force man's eyes were suddenly dull at this moment, followed by a flicker of madness in his eyes. He turned towards Hammer and attacked came over. Swish! Hammer's figure moved, and he quickly retired. Ugh! The two defenders and the brute force screamed at the same time, and then covered their heads, looking crazy, and soon rolled their eyes, fell to the ground and twitched. The breath of life quickly disappeared, as if they were completely dead, died. Hammer's face was serious. He knew that these two defenders and the brute force had forcibly broken through the seal 2 in their minds, resulting in brain death. Chen Hui has already improved the brainwave attack. General brainwave attacks are useless against defenders, brute force, and speedsters. Now that this happened, it proves that that mysterious figure has with extremely powerful mental power. The brainwave attack can break through the curse seal 2 in an instant, causing the curse seal 2 to activate the self-destruction function. Whoosh whoosh! Hammer retreated quickly. But he could feel that the brainwave attack didn't end, it was spreading towards him rapidly, trying to enter his mind, causing the second generation of the curse in his mind to be shattered, and thus brain dead. Wow! Just when this brainwave attack was about to penetrate his mind, suddenly the same psychokinesis swept over, forming a protective circle, covering Hammer, and also covering everyone, blocking the brainwave attack. That man is not Charles. Hammer was thrilled and said to Jean and Gwen. Not a professor. Jean frowned. If it wasn't Professor X, wouldn't they have been in vain? Bamboo basket fetching water in vain? Seeing this, Gwen was thoughtful, but her face completely calmed down at this moment. He remembered that Chen Hui said that there should be a telepathy ability beside Loki, that is, the son of Stryker, the spiritual illusion master transformed by him, Jason Stryker. Obviously, Professor X is no longer here. Yes, only this master of psychic illusion deliberately created a brainwave response similar to Professor X to confuse them to come here. It's just a Loki trap here. Let's go. Without the slightest hesitation, Gwen gave an order and raised his hand at the same time. A burst of crimson energy rose like a flame, waved, bang, and slammed towards Jason's direction. Boom. Then Jason was originally a vegetable-like existence, except for the brainwave attack. He had no resistance to ability at all, so he fell off the wheelchair immediately after being bombarded by Gwen, and fell into a dog eating shit, and passed out in an instant. Gwen's figure flashed, and Jason was caught. She knew that this Jason was one of Chen Hui's targets, and now that he was subdued, he definitely wanted to take him away. While catching Jason, Gwen raised his hand, and everyone's figures distorted immediately, including Iceman and Storm, who were resisting the water attack outside, disappeared and left in an instant under the same distortion. Asking for flowers, wow! As soon as they left, the entire frozen water burst completely, following the turbulent water, roaring wildly, and instantly engulfed the place. Whether it was the iron gate or the wall, it became a ruin in the blink of an eye, and was submerged in the water. In the torrent. Call. Chen Hui's figure retreated rapidly. His eyes were dignified. He looked at the bloodthirsty abomination, at the figure walking from behind. At the same time, a trace of mist was steaming on his arm, and there were some damages on the frosty battle suit, which continued to squirm and slowly repair itself. He clashed with the Hate's fist, but did not get any advantage. It's not how powerful the abomination is, but just when they collided, and Chen Hui wanted to do the same and throw him out of the dam, a crimson flame laser blasted towards him. Don't be too familiar with this flame laser light. It's Cyclops, guide. Chen Hui's eyes narrowed slowly. Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler and others were all close to Chen Hui, looking vigilantly at Abomination, and the figure coming behind Abomination. This figure was naturally Cyclops. At this moment there was a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Seeing Chen Hui and the others gathered, he smiled and said, "Just right, I was just thinking about how to gather you together, and you are leaning together." As he spoke, he put his right hand on the special black Cyclops mirror on his face, adjusted the direction, and aimed at Chen Hui and the others. Wow! Suddenly, a stream of laser flame burst out from his eyes. It was huge enough to envelop Chen Hui and the others in one sweep. The entire dam trembled frantically because of this, and the speed of collapse increased dramatically. Chapter 137. Sensing the power of the laser flame streamer of Cyclops, Chen Hui revealed a trace of solemnity between his brows. Apparently, while Loki was controlling Cyclops, he also enhanced him. But if it's just that, it's useless to him. Wow! He slapped the ground violently, and with the surge of chakra energy all over his body, the ground burst open, and then the bone spurs spread out from one of them, turning into a vibranium bone wall, resisting in front of him. Boom! The laser flame beams bombarded the vibranium bone wall, and the entire bone wall vibrated slightly, without a single scratch. Seeing this, Cyclops frowned. Wow! 193 Once again, several laser beams were fired, blasting towards Chen Hui and the others, but at this moment, Chen Hui snorted coldly, and an icy aura spread from all over his body, sweeping around, causing the surrounding seepage and cracked water to freeze one after another. At the same time, those laser beams also tended to stop, and eventually turned into several icicles, which fell directly and were smashed into pieces. At the same time, the bloodthirsty abomination was also covered with frost on its legs, and its actions were greatly hindered for a while. Superior! Chen Hui shouted an order, his figure moved, and quickly stepped forward. Right now, the entire dam is about to collapse, but Professor X and Loki have not been found yet, and there is no news from Gwen. It is obvious that Loki should have been prepared to leave completely, avoiding their eyes and ears. Cyclops and Abomination are here, just blocking his progress. It is even possible that Professor X has already been withdrawn. Loki has already planned this dam collapse, so there will be two powerful villains, Juggernaut and strengthening bloodthirsty abomination. The goal is to bring down the entire dam. It's just that Loki didn't expect that the dam collapsed faster than he expected, so the current actions may be a little rushed. And this is also an opportunity for Chen Hui. Since he's in a hurry, he can catch Loki by surprise as long as he's fast enough. Wolverine, Colossus, you two hold the bloodthirsty abomination. Nightcrawler, you take me to the Cyclops. Chen Hui ordered quickly. Whizzing! Hearing this, Wolverine and Colossus attacked quickly, and at the same moment, Chen Hui waved his hand, and suddenly two vibranium bone spears condensed from above their heads, accompanied by the dazzling particles of chakra energy. The vibranium bone spears quickly condensed successfully. Two people caught. Swish! Swish! With a leap, he headed towards the bloodthirsty abomination who was immobile due to the frozen movement. Roar! With a roar of bloodthirsty hatred, he stretched out the palm of his fan, and was about to grab the two of them. If it was normal, the two of them leaped so fast, they would definitely be pinched by the hatred. After all, the movement was too obvious, but at the moment, the two of them were holding Chen Hui's vibranium bone spear in their hands. Seeing the palm of the hatred grabbing it, they immediately turned into motion with all the strength in his body. He grabbed the vibranium bone spear and stabbed viciously towards the palm of the abomination. PSST. Blink through. Accompanied by the piercing of the bone spear, Hate let out a shrill roar, and withdrew his palms, and taking advantage of this opportunity, the two of them grabbed the pierced bone spear again, and stabbed viciously towards Abomination's stomach again. Trapped, killing him, there is no mercy in his hands. Even Wolverine felt that it wasn't enough, so she stretched out her sharp claws, and at the same time she screamed in disgust. She jumped up and stabbed towards his eyes. Thorn. Blood splashes. The abomination went crazy, roaring furiously, and sent Wolverine and Colossus flying, rampaging, and the entire dam collapsed even faster. At this moment, under the teleportation of Nightcrawler, Chen Hui has come behind Cyclops. Cyclops' complexion changed, and he turned around abruptly, about to activate the laser beams in his eyes, but at this moment, Chen Hui hit him in the face with a fist the size of a sandbag. Cyclops suddenly tilted his nose and fainted. With Chen Hui's power, once close, it would be fatal to Cyclops, the long-range magician. After knocking him out, Chen Hui moved extremely fast, and under the teleportation of Nightcrawler, he came to Berserker in the blink of an eye. Seeing the huge wound on his stomach, a fierce light flashed in his eyes. Now that you're injured, swish. As soon as the palm was raised, a surge of chakra energy quickly gathered in the palm, and immediately, a series of grey, sharp, and small bone spurs full of decaying aura shot out violently, towards the belly of the abomination. The wound was blasted away. It is the ashes of the joint killing. The wound hadn't healed yet, and he was suddenly hit by Chen Hui again, making the hatred even crazier. Swish! With a fierce leap, Ri Shuang's huge fist was thrown towards Chen Hui with overwhelming momentum. Go! Chen Hui didn't hate the bird at all, and looked directly at Nightcrawler. It is good. Nightcrawler has quick eyes and quick hands, and quickly disappeared with Chen Hui 2.4 away. At the same time, he came to Cyclops, Wolverine, and Colossus, and took them away in an instant. It was almost 2 breaths before Chen Hui and the others disappeared. It disappeared without a trace. And at this moment, the hatred swelled all over his body, and from his wound, a terrifying explosion force spread wildly. Time seemed to have stopped slightly at this moment. Next moment, the earth-shattering explosion sounded, and the entire body of Hate was swallowed by the explosion, torn apart, almost turned into powder, and finally submerged in a torrent of ruins, completely annihilated. Chapter 138. Call. Chen Hui and others fell down. Although the hatred was eliminated, their losses were not small along the way. There were not many of the original speed fighters, defenders, and brute force fighters, and even the speed fighters on Wolverine's side had all been wiped out. This shows how brutal the battle was. And the key is, Professor X has not been found yet. This made Chen Hui frown. The dam is about to collapse, and there's no word from Gwen yet. Okay. Suddenly Chen Hui's eyes flashed. He is currently located very close to a dark place similar to a basement, surrounded by many instruments. It looks like a laboratory, but this is not the key. But in the depths of this laboratory, under the diffusion of his mental chakra, perception came to a familiar breath. Loki. Chen Hui immediately made a silent gesture, telling Wolverine and the others not to speak. 22 Immediately, his mental power sensed the past carefully, wanting to see what was going on at Loki's side. Soon, his mental power perception arrived, and with the blessing of Chakra, he vaguely saw that in the depths of the laboratory was like an altar. Looks like a teleportation altar in Bifrost. And Loki was standing on top of the altar, muttering something divinely, and at the same time, there were many people around the altar. One of them, a bald old man sitting in a wheelchair, had a peaceful face and calm eyes, looking at Loki with a faint gleam of light. This is... Chen Hui stared, Professor X. Although only the general appearance can be seen, the subtle expressions are not clear, but on the surface, Professor X seems to be very peaceful and quiet, not like being kidnapped, but like someone who came to visit and drink tea. Same. Is Professor X already under control? Chen Hui couldn't believe it. Professor X can be said to be the person with the strongest brain in the world, and Phoenix can only rely on Phoenix Force to compare with Professor X. Such a man has an extremely strong will, and he can't just control it. It can be said, Chen Hui's curse seal chip must be developed to at least the 5th generation before it can affect people like Professor X, otherwise it cannot be controlled at all. But Loki manages to keep it under control. I have to say that Loki still has a lot of tricks. He lost his mind scepter, and without the Tesseract, he can do such a thing on Earth. If Loki had successfully obtained the Tesseract back then, the entire Earth would undoubtedly, the consequences will certainly be disastrous. In addition to Professor X, there are many people around the altar. Chen Hui. I recognized them all. Magneto, Mystique, that Asian woman with ponytail and silver nails, should be a death girl with an ability similar to Wolverine. This non-mainstream girl with short hair and thick lip gloss seems to be the Arc in X-Men 3. It's the woman who claps her hands and sends out shock waves. It's a bit similar to the Vibe Girl in S.H.I.E.L.D, but there should be no Vibe Girl. Speaking of which, it seems that S.H.I.E.L.D doesn't have Vibe Girl Sky. Oh no, it should be called Daisy. Hey? This is... Chen Hui, the crew cut man, skipped it directly. He recognized this man as the Quill Man in X-Men 3, with spikes coming out of his body, and this guy's ability is not strong. Chen Hui mainly paid attention to Magneto, Professor X, and the last mysterious man sitting cross-legged, floating in the air, wearing a metal helmet that resembled a skull, and wearing a coarse linen coat in ancient Chinese style. Is this person also a mutant? It looks like he has a strong ability. Chen Hui has never seen such a mutant. How about sitting in the air? Could it be that this mutant can control gravity, one of the 4 fundamental forces? Chen Hui guessed in his heart. The world's 4 fundamental forces, gravity, electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, and nuclear force. Leaving aside the strong nuclear force and the weak nuclear force, everyone should be familiar with the electromagnetic force, because that is exactly the force that Magneto has mastered. The force of the Earth's magnetism. Those who can master the basic force are abnormal level mutants, such as Magneto, the mysterious metal helmet man. If he can control gravity as Chen Hui guessed, then the ability is definitely abnormal level, at least it is a 4th level mutant. Okay. Chen Hui was about to take a closer look. At this moment, Professor X's eyes moved, and he looked over here, with a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. At the same time, a powerful brainwave thought swept through the air, quickly enveloped Chen Hui and the others, and then quickly penetrated into the minds of Chen Hui and the others, trying to put their thoughts to rest. Wait, Chen Hui's face darkened. He never thought that he was so careful, but he was discovered by Professor X, and suddenly the chakra energy surged all over his body, turning into a wave of brainwave thoughts, which also enveloped his own people. Buzz. There was a hum in the air. Professor X's brainwave thoughts are resisted by Chen Hui's powerful chakra energy. This scene made Professor X slightly surprised 770, and then there was an interesting look on his face. At the same time, Magneto opened his eyes. Humph. I can smell a metallic smell from far away, grab it. Immediately, a wave of magnetic force surged out, causing Wolverine, who was beside Chen Hui, to be shocked, and then she couldn't help being caught by Magneto. You know, Chen Hui's current location is about 300 meters away from the altar. Such a distance, it was okay to be discovered by Professor X, but to be discovered by Magneto, and at such a long distance, it seemed that Wolverine was going to be caught directly. He knows that Magneto's ability has been enhanced. Drink. Feeling that she was about to be grabbed by Magneto, Wolverine looked horrified, stretched out the steel claws without any hesitation, and inserted them into the ground to prevent herself from being caught. At the same time, Chen Hui snorted coldly and waved his hand. Kara Kara. Layers of frost raged around at a speed visible to the naked eye, and swept away madly towards the altar where Loki, Professor X, Magneto, and others were. Wherever they went, everything was frozen. Chapter 139. Okay. Seeing that the battle was about to break out, Loki opened his eyes and looked towards Chen Hui and the others. When the cold light flickered in his eyes, a hint of evil spirit spread. Humph, are you here? It's just in time. Originally, I wanted to leave here directly, but I didn't want to be under my illusion. Jason has already completed the domestication of Professor X, and if he is here. Loki looked at the man in the metal helmet who was sitting in the air, a slight arc spread from the corner of his mouth. Even if I don't rely on Tesseract, I can open the cosmic channel and let some Chitauri come to the Earth. As long as I have a large army, plus these mutant men, it will be easy to find the Rubik's Cube and conquer the Earth. Hee. As for this Dr. Chen Hui. Loki's eyes flickered with coldness, and he waved his hands at Professor X, Magneto, and the others and shouted in a low voice, "Kill all these ants!" Swish swish swish! With an order, Mystique, Death Girl, Arclight, and Quill Man jumped out one after another. Violent and strange flames burst out from their bodies, burning the surroundings, and the scorching high temperature actually made Chen Hui's frost tend to melt. Apparently, they all got Loki's magic zone. At this moment, there was a bang around, the wall was broken, and it seemed that there was a rush of water gushing out. But the mysterious metal-helmeted man who was sitting in the air suddenly had blue light flashing in his eyes, followed by the surrounding water flow and retracted, and even the wall that was about to burst was slowly closed. He turned his head to look at Loki, and said slightly dignified words, "This place is about to completely collapse, I can only support it for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is enough," Loki said coldly. Staring at the altar with both eyes, he raised his hands, and there was a thud faintly. It seemed that a vortex was opened from the palm of his hand, and a tyrannical space force penetrated from it, making the entire laboratory, all the space storm is rolling wildly. At this time, Professor X looked at Loki, and a strong brainwave idea merged into Loki's mind, causing his mental power to surge, and immediately the vortex between his hands expanded even bigger, and the space storm swept even more violently. Just when it's about to fall apart. Wow! The mysterious man wearing a metal helmet, the blue light in his eyes was even thicker, and he raised his hands as if worshipping Buddha. From his head, there was actually a faint black hole spinning and spreading out. The moment it spread, the vortex between Loki's hands disintegrated and collapsed, and completely gathered together. Even at this time, there was a tendency to integrate with the black hole. Chen Hui saw all this clearly from a distance. This black hole, this vortex, so rich in the power of space, this is to create a cosmic passage. Chen Hui's expression changed drastically. He has studied the cosmic channel very deeply. Seeing Loki's actions at this moment, he immediately understood what Loki was thinking. Loki is highly skilled in magic. Originally, he has the magical ability to open latitude space and create cosmic passages. However, this consumes a lot of divine power. Even if Loki has this ability, he will not use it easily. But right now Loki's ability has been greatly increased for some unknown reason, coupled with the assistance of Professor X and the mysterious man in the metal helmet. It seems that he already has the ability to create a large cosmic channel. Although it is artificially made, once the divine power is exhausted, the channel will be closed. Not long time. But even so, it is enough for Chitauri's army to enter a part of the Earth, and once Loki has an army, it will definitely be a disaster for the Earth. Don't let Loki get his way. Chen Hui's expression has never been so solemn as it is now. Whoosh! The figure flickered, and went straight in the direction of Loki. At the same time, he pressed his right hand on his left shoulder, snorted, and the mutated vibranium bone sword was drawn out, accompanied by 10 flashes of blue light on it. Swish! The whole person quickly disappeared in place. When it reappeared, it was already not far from the altar. A blade of light spread from the bone sword, with frost and thunder surged on it, and it slashed towards Loki. Humph! Magneto snorted coldly, "I remember you, you are the one from Queens back then. You didn't enjoy yourself last time, let's come again this time." As he said that, a cold light suddenly surged in his eyes, and with a wave of his big hand, the steel with flame texture all over his body twisted and turned into a shield, resisting the light of Chen Hui's blade. Get out! Chen Hui let out a loud cry, and when the blade was about to hit the steel shield, it flashed suddenly and disappeared in the blink of an eye. When it reappeared, it was already behind the shield, and it landed 3 meters away from Loki's body in an instant. How is it possible? Magneto was shocked. Okay. Loki's expression also changed. But there was not much panic in his eyes. At this moment, a blue light flashed in the eyes of the man with the mysterious metal helmet, and the black hole spread, swallowing the blade. Although the tendency of combining the space vortex and the black hole in Loki's hands has slowed down due to the strength of the blade, it is a drop in the bucket. At this moment, the Death Girl came at Chen Hui, stretched out her 5 fingers, clang, 5 adamantium steel claws flickering with cold light popped out from her fingertips, and grabbed Chen Hui. At the same time, Wolverine and others behind him also fought. But Li Liaozhao, the situation is not good. With Loki's magic blessing, Professor X's brainwave attack, and Magneto's metal attack, Wolverine and the others could only be beaten back and forth. Seeing that his own people were at a disadvantage, and Loki's cosmic passage was about to be completed, Chen Hui suddenly felt something, and looked aside, only to see that the space there was distorted, followed by several figures appearing. It's Gwen and his team. Okay. As soon as Gwen and the others appeared, they saw the scene of a chaotic fight, they couldn't help frowning, and looked at Chen Hui, as if they were asking about the situation. When Chen Hui saw Gwen, suddenly a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, and he quickly shouted to Gwen, "Quick! Move Loki and this person to different places, as far apart as possible." As he spoke, he pointed at the mysterious man in the metal helmet. Chapter 140. Gwen didn't hesitate at all. As soon as Chen Hui spoke, she raised her hands. The tacit understanding was extremely high, and a space-shifting force immediately shrouded Loki and the mysterious man in the metal helmet respectively. Wow! The space surged and fluctuated, rolling up like waves. Loki's expression changed. He could clearly feel that a tyrannical force of space was rushing towards him, trying to pull him into nothingness and teleport him to an unknown place. Humph! The power of this space is so strong that Loki's figure was distorted and almost disappeared, but at this moment, the black hole rushed in and swallowed this wave of space forcibly. Loki snorted and looked at Gwen with a gloomy expression. But he didn't expect that there was another spatial ability on Chen Hui's side. This space is very powerful, I'm afraid we will have to wait a while longer to create a passage, and during this period, we can't let that little girl attack us again. The man in the mysterious metal helmet looked at Loki. His black hole devoured the space power that Gwen was attacking towards him, and then devoured the one that was attacking Loki. At this moment, it was constantly trembling, and there was actually a slight tendency to shrink. This is definitely not good news for them. 7910. Loki nodded with a gloomy face, looked at Magneto, Professor X and others, and the mutants under his control suddenly had a cold look in their eyes, and looked at Gwen with a hostile expression. Chen Hui's face darkened when he saw this scene. I didn't expect that the black hole could swallow even Gwen's space power, but obviously it couldn't swallow much, as can be seen from its shrinking trend. It's just obvious now that in order to prevent Gwen from using the power of space again, Loki is definitely going to focus his attack on Gwen. Whoosh whoosh! Death Girl, Mystique, Arclight and Quill Boy jumped forward one after another, their bodies bursting with flames, bursting out with incomparable power, and with the blessing of Loki's magic, their speed became extremely fast. After a while, they threw away Wolverine and the others, and quickly attacked Gwen. And Magneto and Professor X moved their minds respectively, steel thorns covered with flame textures and a powerful brainwave force rushed towards Gwen. For a while, Gwen became the target of public criticism. As for Wolverine and others, they couldn't keep up for a while, and only Chen could slightly block Professor X's brainwave attack. A drop in the bucket. Chen in normal state, without Phoenix Force, how can I get north with Professor X? Right now, she doesn't have the ability to take the initiative to control the Phoenix Force, not to mention the time is too hasty, she hasn't even realized what happened here, why Professor X wants to attack them. Shua! The fierce attack came, and the man Quill who moved the most swiftly was the first. The spikes all over his body were bursting with flames, his face was ferocious, and he looked at Gwen with awe-inspiring killing intent. Boom! But at this moment, a fist slammed into his face, breaking off the spikes on his face with a snap, and even pierced into the cheek, and came out from the other face. With one punch, the ferocious face full of killing intent turned into a rotten watermelon in an instant. Roll! Chen Hui's eyes were cold, and at a high speed, he came to Gwen in an instant, smashed Quill's face with his fist, and then kicked him. The strength is not great, but only 1,000 tons. Quill's whole body flew out like a convulsion. Although Loki's magical blessing has greatly enhanced his physical strength, a kick with 1,000 tons of force is too terrifying. Before the Quill man even flew into the air, he just stared at him. Boom! It exploded into blood mist and turned into flame debris. This scene immediately made the faces of the besieging Mystique and others change, and they took a breath of cold air. Well! Kfei, what a terrifying force! Damn it! Loki looked at Chen Hui dressed in a black windbreaker, and couldn't recognize that this was the mysterious strongman who had been blocking him. Even Loki suspected that this person robbed his mind scepter and took away the Tesseract. Kill him! Loki orders coldly. Chen Hui looked at it coldly. Loki wanted to kill Gwen, that was to touch his reverse scale. At the moment, anger rose in his heart, and as the anger surged, his fighting spirit seemed to be ignited. Two phases integrate, making him full of chakra energy, surrounded by flames from the surface of his body. On the surface it looks like a scion transformed. The shocking breath spread out, causing Loki's pupils to constrict suddenly, and the next moment his voice became colder, even with a hint of nervousness and screaming. Quick! Concentrate on killing him! Mystique, Death Girl, Arclight, Magneto, and Professor X all launched the strongest attacks at Chen Hui. The speed and power were unparalleled. Even at this moment, the mysterious metal helmet man moved his hand. Suddenly, a strong gravitational force spread around, causing the faces of the people on Chen Hui's side to change, only feeling that their bodies seemed to be 3 or 4 times heavier at this moment. Chen Hui is even more serious. 10 times the force of gravity was acting on him, making his actions severely frustrated at this moment. But Chen Hui's expressionless face, the integration of anger and fighting spirit, caused the arc reactor in his cells to run wildly, and a force stronger than ever before surged out of his body. Boom! The arc girl who can emit vibe clapped her hands, and suddenly the air burst and vibrated. The fluctuation of the magnitude 12 earthquake spread Loki's evil flame, and rushed towards Chen Hui. Chen Hui waved his hand slightly. Vibe Boo, Annihilation! Immediately after Chen Hui grabbed it, the power of chakra turned into an invisible giant hand, grabbed the arc light girl, and lifted it into the air. A pinch! There was another boo, the female arc's eyes were about to burst, and her whole body turned into blood mist and burst open, turning into flame slag, being squeezed out of life potential by Loki's magic, thus gaining power, coupled with Chen Hui's huge strength, finally as a result of death, that would only be the case. After destroying Arc Light Girl in one fell swoop, Chen Hui stepped forward with a cold expression and awe-inspiring killing intent. Easily. Because 10 times the gravity is insignificant to his current strength. P.S. Although the update is a bit late, but today, there will be 6. Chapter 141. Drink. The scene where Chen Hui wiped out Arc Girl in one fell swoop was shocking, but it wasn't enough to scare people, especially for Mutant, who was strengthened by Loki and whose mind had become extremely numb. The Death Girl, who has an ability similar to Wolverine, super strong self-healing factor, and integrated adamantium all over her body, stretched out her cold steel claws with her 10 fingers, leaped forward and attacked Chen Hui. At the same time, with a wave of Magneto's hand, several steel thorns flowed into flame textures, attacking Chen Hui. Chen Hui snorted coldly. Chakra surged up all over the body, penetrating the vibranium bones all over the body, and suddenly a wave of anti-metal effect force swept away wildly. Magneto's steel spike melted in the blink of an eye. Before the dead girl rushed over, the 10 adamantium claws collapsed, and drops of liquid metal dripped down, and she trembled violently, feeling that the originally indestructible adamantium bones had a tendency to melt. How is this possible? The dead woman opened her eyes wide, and she even had a feeling that if she got close to Chen Hui within 3 meters of her body at this moment, all the adamantium bones in her body would melt, even transpiration. Humph! Magneto's eyes flickered coldly. I knew you had the anti-metal ability, but this time, even if you vaporize metal, I can control it. Wave. Wow! The steel thorns that melted into molten metal flowed wild flames. This flame contained the strange fire attribute on Loki's body. It was obviously blessed by Loki's magic. Along with the spread of molten metal, it turned into a fire dragon and slammed towards Chen Hui, come roaring. Before it got close to 3 meters, it exploded suddenly, and the molten metal turned into a gaseous state in the blink of an eye. Metal gas. But even so, Magneto still sneered, vaporized metal, the lethality will be even more infinite. Shake it. Suddenly the air trembled violently, and as the metal vaporized, the circulating evil fire became even more intense, and spread crazily, as if turning into a solar storm, with an incomparably strong metallic aura surging inside, and every strand of metal in terms of breath, it has reached a high temperature of 6,000 degrees Celsius. When the diffusion envelopes, the space seems to be distorted at this moment. What is the concept of 6,000 degrees Celsius? That's the temperature of the sun's surface. Once Magneto blows this metal storm, everything here will be incinerated into gas. Including the raging torrent. Oh? Really? The power of vaporized metal is even more infinite? Hehe, that's because you don't know about power. Chen Hui sneered. The power of this metal flame storm is strong, but it hasn't reached the level that can move him. Just as this fiery metal storm rolled in, centered on him, a breath of frost spread away. Right now, the chakra energy in his body is not only endless, but under the integration of fighting spirit and anger, the power is more than 10 times stronger. You know, even if it is a supernatural chakra, its power is only twice that of the most common chakra. Now he is full of chakra energy, which has increased by 10 times, which is already very good. The power of frost spreads out, almost freezing the air, turning into an invisible big hand, which is in contact with Magneto's metal flame storm collision. Instant fusion of ice and fire. The imaginable explosion sound did not resound, because Chen Hui's endless frost chakra, in terms of power, had already surpassed the metal flame storm, and it froze violently almost in the blink of an eye. Boom! It fell to the ground and shattered into water dregs. How is this possible? Magneto's pupil shrank, and his hands hung down weakly. At the same time, Chen Hui kicked his foot, and his figure disappeared in an instant. When he appeared the next moment, he was already at a place less than 3 meters away from Loki. He raised his fist, and all the chakra gathered in it, blasted towards Loki. The strength of this punch has already surpassed Chen Hui's previous strength. Even he himself didn't know how strong the power would be. But he knows that once he lands this punch on Loki, it will definitely blow him to pieces. Stop him! Loki's pupils constricted violently, and he screamed, with a hint of fear in his voice. He could feel how powerful this punch was. He was so strong that he could hardly imagine it. Even at this moment, he faintly felt that the surrounding space was breaking and trembling, as if the space latitude would be blasted away by Chen Hui's punch. Seeking Flowers 00 Professor X frowned tightly. Chen Hui is almost close to him, his brainwave attack can quickly attack Chen Hui, but, at this moment, the anger and fighting spirit contained in Chen Hui's heart, the level of rage, made him my heart is shocked. Even when he was trying to enter Chen Hui's mind with his thoughts, he couldn't stand Chen Hui's incomparably mighty will, and with a click, it seemed that some barrier in the professor's mind was broken. He froze for a moment, and then a gleam of sobriety flashed in his eyes. Boom! At this moment, a deep and pitch-black black hole appeared in front of Chen Hui, and a strong devouring force emanated from it, making Chen Hui's punch at this moment slightly stagnant. It was the mysterious metal helmet man who made the move. The power of the black hole is extremely strong, and it completely acts on Chen Hui, like a mountain pressing on his shoulders, which actually makes Chen Hui's movements a little inconvenient at this moment. Chen Hui suddenly realized that if he wanted to kill Loki, he had to go around the black hole, otherwise his power would be severely dispersed, but the black hole almost completely protected Loki, and he couldn't get around it at all. Chen Hui snorted coldly, and looked at the mysterious man. Your ability, it seems, is the creation of a black hole in your head. The power of this black hole is infinite, but, I want to see now, what is it? Your black hole is stronger than my punch. With that said, Chen went back to his country. Since it cannot be circumvented, then simply, this black hole, will be shattered. Suddenly, Chen Hui's fist collided with the black hole. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. The space seemed to freeze at this moment. The next moment, the entire dam base suddenly exploded with a roar that was almost deaf, and the powerful force spread, and the entire base was wiped out. Even the torrent that was about to roll down violently, under the spread of this force, retreated a little bit, not only could not rush down for a while, but instead rolled backwards crazily. P.S. the second one. I wrote it very slowly, but I put my heart into it, and continued to write zeros after. Eating. Chapter 142. Drib. 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 On the screen of a sophisticated display instrument, circles of red warnings continued to spread out. What happened? This is a place that looks like a large office, but all the staff are wearing uniforms, and there is an eagle-like logo on the uniform, which looks very delicate, but what is more delicate is the layout of the entire large office. It is very tall and full of technological atmosphere. Those who are familiar with this symbol will definitely recognize that this symbol represents S.H.I.E.L.D. At this moment, a burly black man in a black leather jacket with an eye patch on his left eye came over with a puzzled expression. He is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury. And the place where he is right now is the Aegis aircraft carrier belonging to the secret base of S.H.I.E.L.D-3. Director, I discovered huge amounts of space energy fluctuations, which tend to turn into large black holes. Hill stepped forward and reported quickly. Sir, there is one more thing. In this energy fluctuation, we also found the trace of Loki who has been chasing. We even found the special projectile emitted by the Tesseract. Phil Coulson also stepped forward. Oh. Fury was surprised. Whether it is Loki or Tesseract, they have been searching for several months, and after such a long investigation, they also faintly realized that Tesseract is not in Loki's hands, but someone else. I didn't expect that the two, who have searched for so long and had no news, would appear at the same time in an energy fluctuation. It must be that something big happened there. Where did it happen? Fury asked. Lake Alkali in Canada, says Phil Coulson. Okay. Hurry over there immediately. Fury waved his hand. Also, inform Stark and Dr. Banner of this news. Where's Dr. Chen Hui, have you contacted him? Sorry sir, Dr. Chen Hui hasn't responded to your letter for many days. Judging from the activities of Peter Parker and Harry Osborn, Dr. Chen Lian seems to have left Queens. Phil Coulson opened the investigation report and said. Hearing this, Fury frowned slightly. If that's the case, tell Natasha Romanoff to come immediately. Forget about Dr. Chen Hui. Oh yes, Agent Barton should be on standby at any time, right? Let him pick up Natasha Romanoff. Clear. At the same time. The entrance of Chen Hui's laboratory in Queens, New York. Hey, Harry, why are you here too? Peter was swiping a card towards the door of the laboratory. He turned his head and saw that a stretched Lincoln stopped not far away, and Harry's figure came down. He also held a card in his hand. Seeing Peter, Harry had a strange expression on his face, and immediately said, Peter, do you have that feeling too? That feeling? Peter was taken aback when he heard the words, then his face turned serious. He nodded and said, yes, a very palpitation feeling, as if something happened to Chen Hui. I thought it was just my worry, but my spider telepathy is very strong. I didn't expect you, Harry, to feel this way. Let's go in. Now we don't even know where Chen Hui is, maybe his super smart butler Kaguya will know something. Harry said, swiping the card towards the door. Drib. Mr. Harry Osborn welcomes you. Drib. Mr. Peter Parker welcomes you. With the sound of an evil female voice, the door of Chen Hui's laboratory opened. The two of them would not normally come to Chen Hui's laboratory. After all, this is a place for them to be abused by Chen Hui, and it will not be easy. Come on, but the situation is obviously different now. As soon as the two came in. Okay. Suddenly both of them frowned. I saw that the entire laboratory was filled with red light like an alarm, and it was still flashing, as if a thief had entered the laboratory, but if the thief was okay, the two of them would immediately understand when they saw this, it should be a thief. Something happened to Chen Hui. Because Kaguya's super-intelligent brain is directly bound to Chen Hui's genetic bioenergy program, once something happens to Chen Hui, there will be fluctuations. This is a small experiment made by Chen Hui's bioenergy program test. Let's try to see if the bioenergy program can integrate with modern technology. When Peter and Harry were there, Chen Hui explained the principle of the bioenergy program, and he was stunned by what the two of them said. Although the two of them didn't know what the bioenergy program was, seeing this scene, they immediately understood that Chen Hui was in danger. Kaguya, confirm the location of Chen Hui. Suddenly Harry shouted into the air. Drib. The bioenergy program is searching, and the location is being confirmed. Kaguya suddenly sounded. At the same time, a three-dimensional picture appeared in the void. It was a world map, and the picture continued to be detailed until it locked on Lake Arcalai in Canada. Let's go. The two confirmed their location and left without the slightest hesitation. Shortly after, deep in the base of the Osborn Company, a supersonic plane flew up suddenly, turned on the stealth mode, and headed straight for Lake Alkali Flight. And at this time, Alkali Lake Big Dam. Oh no! At this moment, the dam has completely disappeared, and the turbulent water raged wildly, and retreated thousands of meters under the diffusion of energy. In the end, it seemed that the resistance had reached the limit, and all rushed towards the vent of the dam with a boom. At 1.0 hours, a violent black light shot up into the sky and bombarded the sky. Boom! A spread of energy. Immediately afterwards, the entire sky became dark, and a vortex surged from above. At the same time, boom! A flash of lightning descended, and one could faintly see the light of a rainbow, which disappeared on the distant snow mountain in an instant. After disappearing, the sound of thunder suddenly resounded, and at the same time, a figure dancing wildly from the snow mountain flew away. Come out! This figure is exactly Thor. Thor. P.S. Chapter 3. By the way, give me a thumbs up for all the comments on children's shoes. I'll count and add more. Chapter 143. Hiss. Seeing the black light soaring into the sky and the weird vortex that appeared in the sky, Thor gasped and was stunned. He could feel that in that vortex, a channel seemed to be opened arbitrarily. This channel was very unstable, and the space storm inside was extremely large, but it was still able to make powerful creatures outside the universe come down. It's just that the price to pay is higher. I got the news that Loki colluded with the Chitauri people and wanted to occupy the Earth and obtain the Tesseract. Now Loki should have opened the cosmic channel, but it doesn't seem to be through the Tesseract. Although there seems to be a breath of Tesseract here, the opening of the channel is more like by brute force. Hey! Thor was thinking. Suddenly, not far from him, a strong azure light flashed. At the same time, dozens of figures appeared from it. After the blue light disappeared, the appearance of these dozens of figures appeared. They were Gwen and his group, except for Gwen, Sheen, Storm 22, Wolverine, Iceman, etc. Besides, there are Professor X, Magneto, Mystique, and Death Girl. These four people were originally controlled by Loki, but now their eyes are clear and their expressions are complicated, and they are obviously free from the control. Among them, Professor X is the calmest. In fact, he was the first to wake up. When the thought entered Chen Hui's mind, the control barrier in his mind was disturbed by Chen Hui's fighting spirit and anger, and it was shattered. He woke up, and once he woke up, he used his telepathy to break all the control barriers in other people's minds, and liberated the other master from Loki's control. However, there was only time to liberate the three of Magneto. The man in the mysterious metal helmet, the black hole in his mind was too powerful to be penetrated by Professor X's telepathy, and the situation was too urgent at that time. The explosion was imminent. Chen Hui's fist collided with the black hole. The force was too strong. If not for Chen Hui's reminder next, Gwen transferred everyone out in time. I am afraid that everyone is either dead or injured now. Chen Hui. Gwen looked at the place where the dam was swallowed by the torrent, and the black light shot straight into the sky, with a worried expression on his face. Originally, she wanted to transfer Chen Hui out, but Chen Hui's power fluctuated too strongly, and there was black hole interference, so her space transfer power couldn't touch Chen Hui at all. Teacher X picked up 4 people and transferred them out. Seeing the dam disappearing in smoke, Gwen's eyes were red, and azure light surged all over his body. There was a faint Rubik's Cube light flowing from between his eyebrows, and he was about to teleport over to see how Chen Hui was doing. But at this moment, a figure suddenly flew over. It's Thor. Thor's sudden arrival made everyone's faces change, and their eyes showed vigilance and unkindness, but Thor didn't care about it. His eyes were shining brightly, and he stared at Gwen with a frown, saying, "The Rubik's Cube is here with you." Rubik's Cube? What Rubik's Cube? Everyone was puzzled. Gwen frowned, and she recognized it. This is Thor from God's domain. Back then, she took Jane and Thor to the mall in Queens, but now she has a symbiote battlesuit covered his face, so Thor didn't recognize him. Since I didn't recognize it. Gwen calmed down. Her voice was cold and authentic. So what if the Rubik's Cube is with me? What if it's not with me? Who are you? Get out of the way, or I'll be rude to you. Swish swish swish. Before the words fell, Wolverine and the others quickly surrounded Thor. With a clang, Wolverine stretched out both hands of steel claws, Iceman's hands surged with coldness, and Fireman's hands curled up with flames. Colossus' whole body showed a metallic luster. Hammer also surrounded with the rest of the curse-sealed warriors. And Chen, Magneto, and others surrounded Professor X, watching this scene with a little surprise on their faces. Humph! Who am I? I am Thor from God's realm. Thor snorted coldly and said, the Tesseract is originally something in our God's domain. Little girl, I advise you to hand over the Rubik's Cube as soon as possible, this thing is too dangerous for you. Thor looked around and sneered, do you think these chickens and dogs can stop me? Chicken tile dog. Wolverine was taken aback for a moment, then her face darkened, humph, you can try it. Shua. Wolverine's temper was extremely hot, and as soon as the words fell, the steel claws attacked Thor without any hesitation. Thor's face turned cold, and at the moment when Wolverine's steel claws struck, he raised Mjolnir and slammed it with a hammer. Clang! Wow! Wolverine hastily blocked it with steel claws, and a sound of gold and iron clanging resounded all around, and the moment the steel claws touched Thor, sparks flew everywhere. Okay. Thor was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the opponent's steel claws seemed to be quite hard, but even so, it was useless. Boom! Suddenly, a cloud of thunder came out from Mjolnir, and the powerful force directly blasted Wolverine out, and she was burnt all over. Seeing this, Thor sneered, but at this moment, his eyes fixed, and Wolverine was covered in blood. His burnt body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, healed completely soon, and attacked him again. At the same time, seeing Wolverine attack, Iceman, Pyroman, Colossus, and Hammer also started to attack, heading towards Tortokai to besiege. Although Thor's own fighting power is strong, after all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, and he will soon be restrained. And taking advantage of this opportunity, Gwen's figure flashed, quickly disappeared, and left, heading for the dam rupture. Professor, what shall we do now? Chen frowned and looked at Professor X. At this moment, Cyclops had woken up faintly. Professor X also lifted Loki's mind barrier control for him. Not urgent. Professor X said slowly. Wisdom shone in his eyes, looking at Wolverine and the others who were fighting against Thor, a glimpse of understanding slowly revealed, and immediately said to the piano, let's wait slowly for his return. Chapter 144. Swish. In the raging torrent of Alkali Lake, one can clearly see a vortex with huge amounts of swirling like a black hole. It looks extremely shocking. Gwen's figure appears in the sky, and the symbiote battlesuit on his body squirms. Spontaneously a pair of off-body derivatives like gliding wings extended from behind, allowing Gwen to fly in the air for a short time. She looked around, looking for Chen Hui's figure. Since the symbiont battlesuit has a trace of Chen Hui's genetic attributes, Gwen can feel Chen Hui's existence. The reason why she was so worried before is because this induction disappeared. It wasn't until they reached the dark vortex in the lake that this feeling appeared faintly. There. Suddenly Gwen's eyes moved. The space around her was distorted, and she was teleporting towards the place where Chen Hui was in her sensory center, but at this moment, another black light suddenly burst out from the dark vortex in the lake, rushing straight into the sky, making the vortex in the sky, the rotation is larger, and the space tearing in it is more severe, and even looking from it, you can faintly see the scene of outer space. And the densely packed figures in the outer space. This is. Gwen is under the vortex, so she can see the scene clearly, and she can't help but feel a little tingly. Chen Hui and 547 have talked about Loki's purpose and the Chitauri. I can't even tell that this is the invading race from extraterrestrials, the Terry people. I didn't expect the universe channel to be opened. The space transfer was disturbed by the black light just now, and all the power of space was dissipated. In desperation, Gwen had no choice but to continue to use the power of space to teleport herself to Chen Hui and bring Chen Hui out. However, she suddenly discovered that there seemed to be a kind of space interference fluctuation in the dark vortex, so that her space power could not be transferred there. No. Be sure to teleport in and bring Chen Hui out, otherwise, no matter how strong his body is, he will die. Gwen knew that Chen Hui's body was strong, but the black hole was too weird right now, and she was too worried. She absolutely couldn't just stay where she was and wait for Chen Hui to come out by herself, otherwise, what's the use of her ability to teleport through this space? What's the use of being a Tesseract master? Thinking of this, Gwen gritted her teeth and continued to try to communicate, Uchi, the depths of the dark vortex. Violent fluctuations kept impacting Gwen's mind, just like the explosion of countless bombs roaring in his mind. If he wanted to infiltrate the space power into the depths of the dark vortex, he had to resist the intensity that would shake the minds of ordinary people into a paste. Boom! Open it for me! Suddenly, a dazzling azure light burst out from Gwen's eyes, and Tesseract penetrated from between his brows, spinning and shining continuously, and with a push of Gwen's hands, boom! A beam of energy slammed from the Tesseract into the depths of the dark vortex of the lake. Under the impact of this energy beam, all the blocking fluctuations in the dark vortex in the lake disappeared immediately, and Gwen's figure flashed, then disappeared in midair and completely entered the vortex. In the dark vortex, Chen Hui. The symbiosis enveloped Gwen's whole body, forming a breathing layer similar to fish gills, allowing Gwen to breathe easily in the water. At this moment, she shouted Chen Hui's name loudly, with an anxious face. Gwen, I'm here. Suddenly there was a sound in the distance, although it was faint due to the turbulence of the water, Gwen still heard it. She looked surprised, and in a flash, she arrived at Chen Hui's place in an instant. At this moment, Chen Hui's body has formed a ball made of vibranium bones, and the outer layer has condensed into a thick layer of ice, which is clear and transparent, and the situation outside can be seen from the inside. Definitely, from the outside inside, Chen Hui's figure was a little embarrassed, and he stayed in it, but he was fine, and besides him, there was another person lying beside him. It was the man in the mysterious metal helmet. Wow! Under the guidance of Chen Hui, Gwen's whole body transformed into a symbiotic liquid shape, melted into the ice, and entered the vibranium skeletal ball. Call! Gwen's pretty face was blushing, and it always felt a little shameful to turn into a liquid shape, but that's not the point. After returning to her human form, she looked at the mysterious man in the metal helmet who was obviously unconscious, and then at Chen Hui, wondering, Chen Hui, what's going on here? The thing is like this. Chen Hui began to tell Gwen what happened after the explosion. It turned out that the power of his punch directly suppressed the black hole of the mysterious metal helmet man, and at this moment, Loki went crazy, and he ordered the mysterious metal helmet man to carry out a suicide act. It is to create a black hole that can swallow him. After he dies, the black hole will expand infinitely, and then it will easily integrate with his magic, creating a cosmic channel that is bigger and more stable. Chen Hui naturally wouldn't let this happen. He used the shadow duplication technique he created to directly attack and stun the mysterious man in the metal helmet. Although his shadow duplication technique basically contained a chakra energy crystal in his hand bone, its power was not strong enough, but it could still knock him out. Okay. And at the same time, he used the substitute technique to directly approach Loki's thick body. Seeing that his plan to create the cosmic channel was about to be completely flawed, Loki desperately sacrificed his own life force, which greatly increased his divine power, forcibly combined with the remaining black hole energy, and even integrated himself into the cosmic channel, thus created the current very unstable channel. Chen Hui can be regarded as convinced Loki, as for so desperately. Anyway, he was speechless. Right now Loki is dead or alive, and when he was worrying about how to get out of the whirlpool in the lake, Gwen happened to come. Gwen, let's get out of here. Chen Hui said. It is good. Gwen nodded, and immediately the power of the Tesseract surged, enveloping them, and was about to leave here completely. But at this moment, a torrent suddenly rushed over, and at the same time, a crimson light shone from not far away, and one of the figures rushed over like a torpedo missile. Chapter 145. The figure shining with crimson light was very fast, and accompanied by huge amounts of howling, it slammed towards Chen Hui, extremely powerful. Okay. Chen Hui frowned. This figure not only charged violently, but also had a burst of power from it, causing the surrounding space to fluctuate. Gwen couldn't teleport it out for a while, so he had to accumulate the power of Tesseract, and in this gap time, the figure there is every chance to knock them into the air. Although it is said that with the hardness of vibranium bones, it can fully withstand the impact force. But even so, strong vibrations were unavoidable. He could withstand the force of the vibrations, but it didn't mean that Gwen could also withstand the force of the vibrations. After all, Gwen's physique was not too fishy. Humph! Chen Hui snorted coldly, that ferocious figure with crimson light was undoubtedly the juggernaut who was hit by him into Lake Arcali earlier. Possessing the power of the extra dimension Mephistoceterak, this juggernaut will not die easily, but Chen Hui did not expect this guy to be so persistent, and he is still looking for trouble until now, and even threatened Gwen. If so, then, is courting death. There is a trace of coldness in Chen Hui's eyes, killing intent flashes. Gwen, the force from the last Rubik's Cube has been poured into my body. Chen Hui said to Gwen, the more the better. This. Gwen is a bit hesitation. Chen Hui used the Tesseract's power to conduct experiments, and let her control the Tesseract and pour a lot of energy into his body, but the final result did not increase Chen Hui's power, because the Tesseract's power was too strong. Strong, rebellious, completely uncontrollable, once it enters the body, it is like tens of millions of galloping horses, bumping around, but it is a weakening of Chen Hui's strength. Don't worry, this time, I have the confidence to control this force. Chen Hui said to himself. The last time was the last time, this time he integrated his fighting spirit and anger, unexpectedly increased the power of chakra energy, and it was a full 10 times. He is confident that he can fully integrate the power of Tesseract, so that his own power can be increased in an instant to the extreme. Increased to the level, enough to punch Juggernaut. It is good. Seeing that the Juggernaut was getting closer and the surrounding turbulent, Gwen knew that she could not hold on anymore. Swish! Raise your hand. Immediately, the universe Rubik's Cube shone violently, and suddenly a torrent of azure energy poured into Chen Hui's body. At this moment, his whole body's clothes burst open, leaving only the frosty battle suit attached to it. The body surface, even unable to maintain the shape of the black windbreaker, under the surge of Tesseract energy, can only maintain the initial transparent appearance, tightly attached to Chen Hui's skin, trembling frantically. At this moment, Chen Hui's eyes burst with blue light, and the muscles all over his body twitched. Waves of energy scurried around inside his body like snakes, completely uncontrollable. But at this moment, boom! A strong icy chill burst out from Chen Hui's body, and at the same time, there was a flash of thunder. It was he who contained the chakra energy with dual attributes of ice and thunder. In the blink of an eye, the power of Tesseract has been severely suppressed. Follow, integrate. Wow! At the moment of integrating, the skeletal muscles on Chen Hui's back trembled, and there were vibranium bones growing out, turning into something like bone wings. At the same time, the frost battle suit squirmed up, attached to the bone wing, and even integrated into it, making the bone wing seem to be translucent, with faint blue and golden light flowing alternately, flapping slightly. All of a sudden, there is actually a trace of crystal thunderous light zi sounding, which seems strange. This scene made Chen Hui a little unexpected. Originally, he just wanted to integrate the power of Tesseract, so that he could crush Juggernaut completely with one punch. But I didn't expect that my ice and thunder attribute chakra, combined with the power of Tesseract, would undergo such a strange change. It would be fine to grow a pair of strange bone wings. After all, it is my own bone, which can be decomposed and grown at will. He even gave the integrated frost battle suit into it. Asking for flowers. This is interesting. Seeing this scene, Gwen opened her eyes wide with a strange expression. Chen Hui, on the other hand, was completely immersed in this pair of bone wings that integrated ice and thunder attribute chakra, Tesseract power, vibranium bones, and frost battle suit, feeling the mystery. Looks like this wing has a special function. Chen Hui thought about it. Immediately, the whole bone wing vibrated, and with the flash of thunder, Chen Hui disappeared in the blink of an eye. Okay. The next moment, Chen Hui appeared in front of Juggernaut. He was taken aback for a moment, but soon became ecstatic. He didn't expect that these bone wings could allow him to teleport. Moreover, because it contained the thunder attribute, his speed was even faster than Gwen's. Get some minutes. Roar. Die. Juggernaut was taken aback when he saw Chen Hui suddenly appear, but soon roared like an ancient Tyrannosaurus. All the water around him was blown away by the power of Mephisto on him, and he punched Chen Hui hard. He smashed it hard. This punch, under the sprint, is almost his Juggernaut's strongest power now. The entire stream of water was almost shattered by this punch. But Chen Hui's expression remained unchanged. The moment Juggernaut punched him, he also raised his fist, furious and fighting, coupled with the integration of Tesseract power. This punch is also Chen Hui's most powerful punch so far, in the blink of an eye, collided with Juggernaut. Juggernaut was still grinningly at first, thinking that he was sure to win, but the moment he touched Chen Hui's fist, his face changed, his eyes widened, and his face was full of disbelief. You! He hasn't said a word yet. Pang! His whole body exploded violently, and he was really blown away by Chen Hui's punch. Chapter 146. Call. Chen Hui withdrew his fist, feeling that this punch was really hearty. However, his expression was not relaxed. Although Juggernaut was blown up, the power of Cedarak Mephisto has not dissipated. When he fought Juggernaut, he was actually fighting this terrifying Mephisto from the Crimson Universe. As long as this Mephisto's if the power does not dissipate, then the Juggernaut will exist forever. An apostle dies, and the next apostle will be born. What's more, at the moment under the spread of the Crimson Beelzebub's power, Juggernaut is not completely dead, but still has a breath of life, and you can faintly see in the water, with the crimson light sweeping, a crimson gem condenses out. Taking this as the center, a crimson skeleton is slowly forming 230. It can be seen that Juggernaut's eyes first condensed out, exuding a violent red light, looking at Chen Hui with a sinister smile. Haha, you can't kill me, Cedarak Mephisto's power is endless. Juggernaut's voice boomed. Really? An interesting smile appeared on Chen Hui's face. Your power should all come from this deep ruby, the power of Mephisto. Tisk tisk, there should be a relatively good research value of swish. As soon as the figure moved, it landed directly in front of the figure that Juggernaut was about to condense, and then he reached out to grab the deep ruby. Seeing this, Juggernaut couldn't help but sneered, want to touch the deep ruby and compete with me for the power of Mephisto? Haha, with your thin body, I, Juggernaut, tell you that even if you are strong, strength does not mean body can withstand Mephisto. Before the words fell, Chen Hui's hand had already touched the deep ruby, and a scorching energy swept out of it, with a high temperature of thousands of degrees, as if to incinerate Chen Hui, but at that moment, Chen Hui moved his palm. Wow! The entire palm turned into ice crystals. The scorching energy did not harm him at all. You must know that vibranium bones can absorb any form of energy, not counting how strong the frost attribute in Chen Hui's chakra energy is. Even if it burns him, it will be quickly absorbed by vibranium bones. You know, the scariest thing about Chen Hui is not its strength, but its terrifying defense. With vibranium's strong stability, even if Chen Hui stood there and hit Juggernaut, Juggernaut would not be able to cause much damage to him at all. That's the power of the vibranium skeleton. Captain America can withstand most attacks with just an original adamantium shield mixed with vibranium, not to mention Chen Hui's full-body vibranium bones. Laugh. Ignoring the burning of the Mephisto power, Chen Hui grabbed the deep ruby directly. There seemed to be a protective light shield around the gem, but when Chen Hui pinched it, it shattered with a click, followed by the deep ruby. It was directly caught by Chen Hui and pulled out. You! Juggernaut froze for a moment, opened his eyes wide, and looked at Chen Hui, dumbfounded. This. What Chen Hui pulled out was not just a gem, but his life. Without the Beelzebub's power of Cedarak in the gem, he would have died completely. My friend, I have something to say. Feeling the power in his body drain like blood, Juggernaut suddenly panicked and felt like crying. But Chen Hui didn't care about him at all at the moment. His gaze was completely attracted by the deep ruby in his hand. Generally speaking, as long as anyone touches the deep ruby, he can get the Beelzebub's power of Cedarak, but right now, although Chen Hui seems to be grasping the deep ruby, in fact, there is a transparent glove made of a frost battle suit between his palm and the gem. Therefore, it does not count as touching the deep ruby. Touch the deep ruby, and you can get the Beelzebub's power of Cedarak, but, in this way, it is equivalent to becoming a slave to the power of the Mephisto of Cedarak. Chen Hui narrowed his eyes slightly. Naturally, he will not become anyone's slave, but he is also very curious about this Beelzebub's power. Today is not the time to study it, so let's put it away for now, and study it slowly when we have time in the future. It is best to combine it with Odin. Let's compare the power of the Divine Power, Tesseract, and Psychic Scepter to see if they can integrate, strengthen and so on. In this way, his chakra power strengthening idea will add another. Divine Chakra was just Chen Hui's initial idea. With the acquisition of Tesseract, Psychic Scepter, and the Deep Ruby at this moment, Chen Hui has more ideas. To enhance the chakra energy, it is not enough to become a Divine Chakra. To become stronger, one must become the most awesome. It is best to integrate these four powers together. Create a kind that is more powerful than any power in the world, and can deter any power in the world. The strongest chakra energy. Thinking of this, Chen Hui became excited, and his desire for research greatly increased. Swish! With a flash of their figures, they quickly returned to Gwen, and under Gwen's power of space, they disappeared here in the blink of an eye, without a trace, leaving Juggernaut only condensed into wreckage under the impact of the torrent. His body dissipated with a 4.7 bang, completely annihilated. But at this moment, the dark vortex in the lake began to disappear, and the intense black light soaring into the sky also returned to normal. But the cosmic channel vortex in the sky is completely opened. Although it is not stable, it allows people from far away to see clearly the scene in outer space, as well as the dense Chitauri army rushing towards the vortex. Especially among them, a dragon-shaped steel warship came down with twists and turns. The momentum was so strong, coupled with the dark sky, it was very touching. Everyone on the snow mountain gasped when they saw this scene. They know that from now on, a star-level war of destruction is about to begin. Chapter 147. Call. Chen Hui's figure fell. He and Gwen appeared on another snow-capped mountain. Definitely, apart from the two of them, there was also the unconscious man in the mysterious metal helmet, who was held by Chen Hui like a chicken. Chen Hui, this person. Gwen looked at the mysterious man and asked curiously, "It's unbelievable that someone in mutant is so powerful and created a black hole? How did Loki find such a person?" This person, Chen Hui thought deeply, if there is a character in the X-Men who can create a black hole, there is actually one, and he is a Chinese. This person's name is Guanyin. Avalokitesvara and his brother God were born in a small village in Xinjiang. They have a miniature black hole in one head, and a miniature fixed star in the other, and the abilities of the two brothers can be used interchangeably. This is critical. In other words, the character Guanyin not only possesses the ability of a black hole, but also possesses the power of a fixed star. Definitely, the same goes for the other brother God. The 222s almost destroyed the village as soon as they were born. So the villagers hated these two guys to death, and covered their heads with metal helmets, making their abilities controllable. Later, the god was imprisoned underground in the village, and Guanyin was taken to a military prison in Ningxia by the Chinese military and imprisoned for research and use of its ability. With the power of a black hole and a fixed star in your head? This is as incredible as it needs to be, so it can be predicted that the character of Guanyin should be abused miserably, but the character of Guanyin is still a super virgin, as the name suggests. He is slaughtered by others, but he has no complaints. Anyway, when Chen Hui was reading comics in his previous life, he was very speechless. The man in the mysterious metal helmet right now, if there is no accident, should be one of the Guanyin or God, who was rescued from Huaxia by Loki, somehow be controlled and utilized. The power of the black hole and the fixed star, if my chakra also contains these two powers. Chen Hui's eyes flashed, and some thoughts came to his mind. Black holes have the power to devour everything. If chakra contains such an attribute, don't even think about it, it's absolutely awesome. And when it comes to the fire attribute, what kind of fire can compare to the power of the flame in fixed star? At this time, the man in the metal helmet also woke up and turned around. Seeing Chen Hui and Gwen, he was taken aback for a moment, and then gave a helpless smile. "Both, it was you two who saved me? I heard you like that before, but you, regardless of past suspicions, help me who has committed a heinous crime, ashamed and ashamed." Hearing this, Gwen looked at Chen Hui with a strange expression. Chen Hui coughed dryly. He was indeed a saint, and he couldn't help asking tentatively, "My name is Chen Hui. I don't know your name. I can't talk about your surname or name. My name is Guanyin." The corner of Chen Hui's mouth twitched. Why do these words always have a strong sense of pretend? "Chen Hui, the earth is very dangerous right now." Seeing the change in the sky, Guanyin said, "Loki wants to open the cosmic channel to allow alien invaders to enter the earth. We must do our best to close the cosmic channel. Drive the alien invaders out, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous." "I understand that." Chen Hui nodded, staring intently at the sky. "If you want to close the cosmic channel, all you need is a huge explosive force to interfere with the space. In this way, the cosmic channel will be closed naturally, just like the nuclear bomb that Iron Man brought to the cosmic channel in the Battle of New York in Avengers. The nuclear bomb not only closed the cosmic channel, but also killed many members of the Chitauri army. However, the nuclear bomb is strong, and with his physical defense, the impact of the nuclear bomb can't cause much damage. He took the nuclear bomb to the unstable cosmic channel, bombed it, and easily can settle this alien invasion war. He can easily smooth out the waves caused by Loki's painstaking efforts, and he doesn't know if Loki will cry when he finds out. But where can we get nuclear bombs in this wild place? Everything is ready, only the east wind is owed. Suddenly Chen Hui's eyes moved. I saw a steel figure in the distant sky flying at supersonic speed, and behind it, there was a S.H.I.E.L.D. Quinjet fighter jet, passing the sky, approaching here in the blink of an eye, and Chen Hui could feel it. Then, a detection light scanned towards him. That steel figure, obviously, was Tony. And the Quinjet fighter behind him, if nothing unexpected, should be Dr. Banner. Tony and Banner are here. If there are no accidents, S.H.I.E.L.D. should also be here. Chen Hui was a little surprised. But it makes sense to think about it. There is such a strong energy fluctuation here, with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s intelligence ability, how could it not be detected? There are nuclear bombs on S.H.I.E.L.D's aircraft carrier. In this way, it will not be difficult to get nuclear bombs. Thinking of this, the symbiote battlesuit on Chen Hui's body turned into 023's ordinary clothes, revealing his appearance, and in this way, he immediately attracted Tony's attention in the sky, and flew over quickly. Clang! The figure fell. Tony lifted his mask and looked at Chen Hui, wondering, "Hey, look who I saw, Dr. Chen Hui, why are you here?" Call. The Quinjet fighter also fell, and as the hatch opened, Banner leaned out from it, saw Chen Hui, his eyes lit up, and he walked over quickly. Dr. Chen Hui. Banner gave Chen Hui a big hug. "You've been a very busy person recently, tell me, how long has it been since the three of us got together for a drink? And since I collaborated with you on the experimental research, the others I feel very stupid and can't keep up with my rhythm at all." "Hey! Banner, I don't like hearing that from you." Tony was instantly upset. Chen Hui smiled. "Banner, this sullen guy, has been with Tony for a long time, and he seems to be a bit wild. Okay, we're done talking about the old days, let's talk about business." Suddenly Chen Hui looked serious and looked at the two of them. "P.S. Hurry up and top the book reviews for all the children's shoes, the statistics are due today." Chapter 148. Tony and Banner looked serious. They knew that Chen Hui's appearance here was definitely not by accident. Tony looked up at the Chitauri army constantly appearing in the vortex, and frowned. "These are the alien invaders that Fury said? What did the reindeer-headed evil god Loki do?" "Good." Chen Hui nodded. "It seems that S.H.I.E.L.D. has analyzed something. They come from an alien race called Chitauri in the universe passage, so that they can invade the Earth." "So?" Banner paused slightly. "The next thing we have to do is to find a way to close this passage, and then kill those Chitauri who have entered the Earth." As he spoke, he looked at Chen Hui. "And to close the channel, according to the principles of astrophysics, the opening of the space channel must require a stable energy for the space structure. We only need to use brute force to destroy this structure, and the channel can be closed by itself, and the channel can be seen immediately. It's very unstable, even if we don't do it, it will disappear on its own after a long time, so we just need to push it a bit." Tony also looked at Chen Hui. Chen Hui smiled and nodded. Talking to smart people is easy. Both Tony and Banner are first-class smart geniuses on the planet, so they can easily understand Chen Hui's thoughts. However, even if the space is unstable, a lot of energy is needed to close it instantly. Tony thought again. "And even if we find enough explosive energy, how can we send it into the channel?" Banner continued to ask. "This is easy." Chen Hui said, "It should be Nick Fury who asked you two to come, right? If that's the case, S.H.I.E.L.D. should be not far away, right?" "Good." Tony curled his lips and said, "That guy Fury's aircraft carrier is hiding in stealth mode not far away." "That's good." Chen Hui smiled. "Tony, there should be fighter jets carrying nuclear bombs in the aircraft carrier, right? You should find a way to get one out. With the power of nuclear bombs, the explosion enough to blow up the cosmic passage disappeared. As for you, Dr. Banner." "Okay." Tony nodded. Chen Hui looked at Banner again. "Currently, part of the Chitauri army has passed through the universe passage and came down. There is no one living here, so they didn't do anything, and they are not stupid. They all gathered in the sky, and they should be protecting the universe. Channel, or trying to find a way to completely stabilize the channel. What you have to do is to attract hatred as much as possible, cause damage, let the Chitauri attack. It is best to have a battle with S.H.I.E.L.D. And in this way, only then will we have a chance to break through the blockade and send the nuclear bomb into the channel. Am I alone to attract hate? Banner pointed to himself, stunned. Dr. Chen Hui, when I become a big guy, I can cause a lot of damage, but there are so many people on the other side, and I'm alone, and the enemy is still in the air. Isn't it a bit too? Definitely won't leave you alone. Chen Hui smiled, then pointed to the snow-capped mountains on the other side where Wolverine and the others were, and Thor, who was fighting fiercely with Wolverine and the others. Thor's breath is so recognizable, just the thunder and hammer. Chen Hui recognized that it was Thor. For Thor's arrival, Chen Hui did not have any surprises. It can be said that as long as there is Loki, Thor will definitely appear, not to mention that Loki has made such a big noise right now. If God's domain didn't respond at all, Chen Hui would be surprised instead. Dr. Banner, you should be familiar with that one, right? He is Thor from God's domain, and the others are not weak mutants. Chen Hui quickly said, the appearance of these mutants here is more or less related to Loki's plan. They will fight with you against the Chitauri, and as for Thor, that's not to mention. It is good. Banner nodded, with a smile on his lips. It would be much better if someone fought with me. Besides, I haven't exercised for a long time. It's not too late, let's act now. Tony flew up and was about to go in the direction of the S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft carrier, trying to find a way to get the nuclear bomb out. But at this moment, Chen Hui waved his hand. Tony, don't worry, you go over there with us first, we all get to know each other, and there is one person's ability, it should be helpful to you. Oh. Tony paused and looked over. If that's the case, I'll get to know those mutants too. As soon as the words fell, the energy flow under his feet burst out suddenly, and flew over with a bang. Let's go too. Chen Hui looked at Gwen. Gwen nodded, raised his hand, and suddenly a wave of azure energy enveloped everyone, including the Quinjet fighter. Swish! Blink away. When it reappeared, it was already at the top of the snow mountain where Wolverine and others were. Clang! Thor smashed Colossus open with a hammer, and sent it flying upside down, but at this moment, is it Zhao's? Iceman waved his hand, and a cloud of cold air swept over him, which greatly restricted his actions, and for a while it is a bit difficult to fly away with a hammer. Breaking in when he was depressed. Boom! Tony flew over, and when he saw Thor, he immediately showed an interesting smile. I remember you, Mr. Thor, it seems that you don't get along very well with Dr. Chen Hui. If that's the case, I'll give you a gift. As he spoke, he raised his hand. Palm cannon. Boom! He slammed towards Thor violently. Thor was caught off guard, and was immediately blown away, and at the same time, Tony landed on the ground, looked at Wolverine and the others around him, and smiled slightly. Hey, big guy, let me introduce myself, Tony Stark, I'm here to try to persuade you of. Chapter 149. On the Aegis aircraft carrier. Fury frowned as he watched the Chitauri army continuously coming down to the earth through the cosmic passage on the big screen and gathering around the passage. Sir, according to the current situation, this sudden alien army seems to be sticking to the passage to let more alien troops come over. We must take action to stop them, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous. Phil Coulson is on the sidelines. Okay, I know. Fury nodded, but we need a breakthrough right now, the enemy's defenses are very tight, if we attack rashly, it will only increase the casualties. We will send a reconnaissance plane to continue investigating the situation for now, right? Where are Dr. Stark and Dr. Banner? Phil Coulson looked at the locator, frowned and said, the two of them should have arrived long ago, but an unknown signal fluctuation interfered with their whereabouts, and the technicians are investigating the cause. Unidentified signal fluctuations. Fury frowned. To be precise, it should be an unknown energy fluctuation. Phil Coulson said, the source of the energy fluctuation seems to be someone. Zi, King. Suddenly the door opened. 3 people walked in, 2 men and 1 woman. The leader is a tall and handsome man wearing a retro American soldier uniform with a round shield on his arm. This man is no stranger to him. He is Marvel's signature superhero. Captain America. Steve Rogers. Beside him, an agent-like man holding a special bow and arrow is none other than S.H.I.E.L.D.S agent, Hawkeye. The last woman has long red hair and is wearing a black tights. She is extremely sexy. Is it Black Widow or who? Fury, I don't think we need to rely on Stark, that playboy who only hides in iron blocks. Right now, the alien army is gathering. We need to launch an attack immediately before they are stabilized. Only a strong attack can make a breakthrough, blindly reconnaissance waiting will only make the enemy stronger and stronger. The captain looked at Fury, serious. Well said, Captain. Fury nodded, however, I want to remind you that, with the current air force on the aircraft carrier, and those alien troops that we don't know about, the probability of our losing should be 8% 10. To be precise, it should be 82.13%. Phil Coulson added. So, Captain, do you still want to stick to the attack? Fury looked at the captain. Still persevere. The captain was unmoved, and was very stubborn. Definitely, I also understand that our air force is not as powerful as the enemy, but we don't need a numerical advantage to make a breakthrough, and sometimes fighting alone will have a miraculous effect, so, Fury, let me make a breakthrough. You alone? Fury paused, are you sure you're not joking, Captain? To be precise, there should be 3 people. At this time Black Widow spoke, she shrugged, Sir, you know, the captain's thinking is still the old school's who if me style, 10 cows can't pull back, so Barton agent and I decided to assist the captain to break through and go deep into the enemy's interior. Actually, I personally think that the cooperation of the 3 of us may really make a breakthrough. Hawkeye also said. So, Captain, you don't just want to take the risk alone, CCBF, but you also want to recruit my 2 best agents. Fury said quietly. Cough, that, the 2 of them want to go with me. The captain shrugged and said helplessly. Fury fell silent for a moment. Looking at the increasingly dense Chitauri army in the distance, his eyes flickered for a moment, then he looked at the 3 captains of the United States, took a deep breath and said, well, this is a war that cannot be lost. Doing is probably the best choice. Once a breakthrough is made, I will send people to support you immediately. Wow! On the snow mountain. Along with a wave of distortion in the space, figures of Chen Hui, Gwen, Banner and Guanyin appeared out of thin air, together with a Quinjet fighter jet. But as soon as he appeared, he heard a strong sound of gold and iron. Then I saw Tony, who was still triumphant in midair, was hit by a flying hammer of Thor, and suddenly fell towards this side, gliding on the snow for a few times before finally stopping in front of Chen Hui. The armor behind him it was basically burnt, with electric sparks flickering. Oh shit! Tony's angry voice sounded, how dare you sneak up on me? This barbarian from outer space, I must give him some color. Boom! The figure flew up suddenly, then turned into a supersonic speed in the blink of an eye, and rushed towards Thor. Thor was hit by this, and immediately flew far away. Now he was completely angry, and when he lifted Mjolnir, a surge of divine power surged, rumbling, and the divine power turned into a powerful thunder electric current, which fell from the sky, and suddenly rushed towards watching Tony hack away. Sir, you have been attacked by a huge energy, the current energy value is 400%. J.A.R.V.I.S voice sounded. Hey? How did this happen? Tony was blown away by the thunder. Originally, he was worried that the remaining energy of the armor was not enough, but he didn't expect it to be overloaded at this moment, and he was stunned. But react quickly. Energy overload, this is a good opportunity to fight back. Wow! Accompanied by the intense light of the arc reactor on his chest, an energy beam 10 times stronger than usual blasted towards Thor. Thornton's expression changed. Instantly. Chapter 150. Thor picked up Mjolnir to fend off in front of him. But Tony's energy beam was fast, strong and fierce, and the moment it hit Thor, he stretched out his right hand again, clang, and several miniature shells blasted past with trailing flames. This time Thor is miserable. Although he is from Asgard, his muscles are extremely dense, and he can withstand a lot of damage, but Tony's merciless continuous bombing with several consecutive blows is really powerful. There was also a trace of blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth. Humph! Seeing this, Tony looked smug. Humph! Thor was even angrier, he got up and was about to fight Tony again, Just at this moment, Wolverine and the others surrounded him with indifferent expressions and cold eyes. Tuo'er, I haven't seen you for a long time, don't come here to be safe. Before Tuo'er was shocked, Chen Hui's voice came over, and Wolverine and the others made way for Chen Hui to walk over, with a faint smile on his lips. Chen Hui, it's you. Thor's expression froze, he remembered what his father Odin said to him. In fact this time he came to Earth, not only to find Loki, but also to find Chen Hui. This is an order named by Odin. Although Tuo'er was surprised by this, he didn't know what Chen Hui had done to attract his father's attention, but he also wanted to find Chen Hui, not only to bring him back to God's domain, but also to have a good fight with Chen Hui last game. He didn't believe that he, who had already recovered his divine power, was no match for Chen Hui. Thinking of this, Wang was about to make a move. But at this moment, a voice suddenly entered his mind. If I were you, I would definitely calm down now instead of fighting against this person in front of you. The voice is old, but it carries a kind of calmness and the power to calm the soul. Tuo'er frowned, and looked in another direction involuntarily. There, it was where Professor X, Magneto, and others were, and Professor X looked at him with a smile on his face. At the same time, the voice in Tuo'er's mind sounded again. Don't be surprised, you can call me Professor X, this is my ability, telepathy. I also understand the grievances between you and this Dr. Chen Hui, but believe me, it is very unwise for you to fight alone now. Professor X telepathically said, right now we have a common enemy who is plotting to attack, Mr. Tuo'er, I hope you can put aside your grievances temporarily, and wait until this alien invasion is over. Maybe, there will be a possibility of cooperation. Oh. When Tuo'er heard this, his expression changed and he calmed down. Indeed, it is unwise to fight alone now. Chen Hui has too many people under him, and his own ability is strong. If he fights hard, there will be no good results in the end, and. Tuo'er narrowed his eyes, and he can see that the people here should be divided into two factions. One faction is the Chen Hui faction headed by Wolverine. The other faction is the Spectator faction with Professor X as the main brain. Although it is said that there is no hostility between Chen Hui and the people on Professor X's side, it is obviously not a cooperative relationship, and even from the depths of Professor X's words, a trace of dissatisfaction with Chen Hui can be faintly heard. FFLX. Everything is very clear. Right now, his best choice is to join the team at Professor X. In this way, when the matter with the Chitauri people is resolved this time, he will be able to use the power of Professor X to fight against Chen Hui's power, and only in this way will he have a chance to capture Chen Hui back to God's domain. Okay. Chen Hui narrowed his eyes, looking at Tuo'er's appearance. Why couldn't he see that Tuo'er was flirting with Professor X? Professor X's mind-reading ability really caught off guard. Chen Hui thought to himself, he has read Thor's memory, so he almost knows some of my abilities, and through some abnormal reactions of Wolverine and others, he can almost guess my intentions. In this way, Professor X, you will definitely find a way to deal with me. Professor X is a person who only cares about mutant. Whoever has some bad intentions towards mutant will absolutely hate him without any hesitation. Even for this reason, he even dared to threaten the President. Chen Hui is not so naive as to think that Professor X will not have any wishes for him, asking for flowers. But, so what? To put it bluntly, most of Xavier's school now belongs to Chen Hui. Professor X is like a shell commander, not only inferior to him in power, but also inferior to him in strength. As long as Professor X dares to have any ideas, I'm sorry, and I will pack up and go home immediately with an order. Boom. At this moment, a huge amount of roar suddenly sounded in the sky, and when everyone looked up, they saw a Quinn-style fighter directly attacking the Chitauri invading army. This is S.H.I.E.L.D. Chen Hui showed an interesting look. How could you start attacking so quickly? No, if there is only one fighter, it should be a single soldier operation. You want to rely on flexibility to penetrate into the enemy's interior and find a breakthrough. Then launch a support attack. In this way, it just happened to give me a chance. Chen Hui knew that although the S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft carrier had a nuclear bomb, if it wanted to launch a nuclear bomb, there must be an order from the president, and this was in Canada. Once a nuclear bomb was launched here, it would definitely cause disputes between the two countries. In addition, the Chitauri army has not yet begun to really invade, so it is extremely difficult to launch a nuclear bomb at this time, so the only way is to steal it. Nightcrawler. Chen Hui looked at Nightcrawler and said, I have a task for you, to assist Mr. Stark with one thing. It is good. Nightcrawler was used to hearing Chen Hui's orders, so he nodded subconsciously at this moment, and appeared beside Tony in an instant. This scene made Professor X look slightly condensed. The Nightcrawler was on his side just now, and he passed by at Chen Hui's order? This. Tuer's face changed slightly. Just now he thought Professor X had nothing to do with Chen Hui, but what the hell is this now? I like this lad. Tony was taken aback by Nightcrawler's ability, but quickly laughed and looked interested. Immediately, the figure moved and left you together with Nightcrawler. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.